Hi, my name is Tyler Fornes, and I am the co-host of The Good, the Bad, and the Hunky here on the Voice of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Every week, my co-host Fred Moreland and I discuss all the happenings of All Elite Wrestling and everything going on in the universe of Tony Khan. We talk about Dynamite, we talk about Rampage, and we will talk about Collision when the time comes as well, along with all the appearances outside of AEW from all the best talents in All Elite Wrestling. This is one of the more cohesive wrestling companies in the entire world, and we discuss every intricacy about it, including the unique booking of Tony Khan that is both a huge positive and a major detriment. Check us out every single Thursday here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network.
Cheering at pro wrestling shows in Japan is back, and 2023 is already shaping up to be a big year in the history of pro res. That's why you should listen to the Emerald Flow Show. From the Royal Road to the Green Mat, Paul and Gerard take you into the world of All Japan Pro Wrestling and Pro Wrestling Noah. Not only do we analyze events, but we examine business, who is getting over, what angles are working or not. Occasionally, we take a look at other Japanese promotions like DDT and Zero One. So if you're looking for more coverage of the world of Japanese wrestling, check out the Emerald Flow Show on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, available on all of your favorite podcast apps.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Hey, and welcome back to another edition of Nights of Nitro, that occasional podcast from your friends here at Days of Thunder on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, powered by alargemanappears.com. I'm your host, as always, Dave Ryan, and I am joined by my channel-hopping buddy, Lee Malone. Lee, how are you?
I'm good. Looking forward to the night show. Really am. I've had a busy week while being not busy, which is one that was all kind of weird things to explain, where you've had nothing on but you've just been doing stuff all week.
Yeah, I found that in the past, time fills itself. Feels like a really existential thing to say, but you'll clear off time so that you have plenty of it, and then shit just gets in the way. You know?
Yeah, man. It's just been I've been home all week, but yeah, I feel like I've been doing shit all the time. It's weird. I think I blame having children. I mean, they're the problem behind all of my life.
I mean, I don't have that excuse. Unless you count my dog.
They take up a lot of time as well.
Yeah. I think some people say, isn't it the curse of humanity to be burdened with knowing that they will die? But I think the real curse of humanity is that weird kind of break in physics, that time you are spending in work or time that you are busy with things you don't want to do goes slower than you could possibly fathom. And leisure time, boom, just gone.
Yeah. I also feel like I was more productive in work doing stuff that I wanted to do than actually working.
Yeah. I find that I've done the odd podcast edit in work. I've done the odd note compiling in work. I've never watched a show for this podcast in work because I can't get a long enough stretch of time. I like to watch the show unbroken where possible, unless we've had the odd thunder that nearly kills me stone dead, so I can't do it then. I need to take breaks. But on the whole, I prefer to not take breaks once I start, and I can't guarantee that in work. Like, someone's always fucking looking for me to answer some.
The burden of being good at things.
The burden of going, yeah, I'll take the job of being in charge. Oh, what's that? People actually need me for stuff? Oh, I might have preferred where I was, to be honest. Yeah, I do. I have that thing. I definitely am much more plugged into doing my fantasy football when I'm in work and stuff like that. Whereas at home, if I have a week off, I always forget to do my fantasy football.
Come here, 2 weeks in, I forgot, so I'm done.
Yeah.
I'll always make a team, but I'll never follow up on it.
I'm in a predictions league as well, and there's fierce pressure with that because Friday every week then I have to try and remember my fantasy team and then predict the scores for all 10 Premier League games.
Oh.
It's a good league, though. It's one of those that, like, you get a X amount of points for a win, but the closer you are to the accurate scoreline, the more points you get.
Oh, okay.
And then your goal difference over the season, like how far you were off the real goal tally for the season, comes into play as well. It is made by bigger maths nerds than me, bigger Excel nerds than me. Jack Lazell is one of those Excel nerds that makes that league. But can you tell how drained we are of having to watch 5 hours of TV this week, that we're just like casually dancing around maybe one of the more packed shows we're going to do this year?
Talking about dread and time and yeah, but on a brighter note, I really enjoyed both of these shows.
Yeah, like maybe I'll look back fonder on it in review, but I don't remember actively going, I'm really enjoying this Nitro. But in hindsight, now that you've said that, I think that's a 3-hour show that I watched in one sitting. And like I said, I try not to take breaks, but I end up usually having to like pause and go for a walk or something during a Nitro.
I
thought so long.
I thought it was a real Stuff Happens show.
Mm.
And I mean, being that it's 1999, there was very little problematic stuff across both shows, which I was really happy with.
Yeah. I think there's only one segment that I can recall writing, and it was a Raw segment, where I was like, oh, that's it. And it was the crowd that were being extremely dodgy.
Yes.
And you know the exact one I'm talking about, yeah. But that's like 1999 crowds, everyone. I don't know what to tell you.
Come here. Both these crowds, apart from, like you said, that moment, I thought both crowds were fucking incredible.
And this is something I was going to get back to, that like I'm really, really enjoying the shows we dip back to with the hot crowds, because like something that I think we've been lacking a little in 2023 is genuinely hot crowds. I think, well, we've just seen a Dynamite Grand Slam that had a proper hot crowd. Mm-hmm. But like in terms of week to week TV, like I don't watch WWE, but every time I tune into a segment, like you can tell half the heat is piped in.
Yeah, everything's so inorganic in WWE now.
Yeah, like the quote unquote heat that Dom gets, for example, like so preposterously turned up and sweetened. And then like Dynamite has been on a run of crowds that are a bit lackluster, and same with Collision. Those would be the shows I actually do watch. So yeah, I think going into 2 shows with extremely hot crowds really helped. So yeah, what was the experience though of watching? Like you said, you enjoyed both shows. Was it kind of a were they easy watches?
Yeah, I thought they were. I think because I remember this era of Raw so well, everything kind of clicked in my brain. I was like, oh yeah, this happens. And like SummerSlam 99 is a show I had on VHS that I probably watched a dozen times. So like all this build is ingrained in my memory.
Yeah.
And
was it I think body experience for you?
Yeah, and I think that the fact that there was, like, I think I said to you, Greg, doing it like in the DMs, like, I was like, oh, fuck, 1999 Raw, there's going to be a ton of problematic stuff going on. And I really think the fact that there was so little kind of like lifted my mood. And I finished Raw and watched like maybe 40 minutes of Nitro straight after.
Yeah.
And then I hit the rest of Nitro then the following day. So yeah, like I enjoyed both shows.
You did the reverse of what I did, where when I do these, we've had a couple of these crossover to WWF shows, and I will always watch the WCW show first, because even though I think bell to bell the WWF shows have generally been worse, they have much more of a kinetic pace to them. That I find that even when they're bad, they're easier to get through. And I'm wondering, is that the magic of Vince Russo in 1990, not now, but in 1999 WWF, when we've watched before, that like he was as terrible in certain areas as he ever was when he got to WCW, but the pacing of Raw was so much quicker that like nothing stayed on screen long enough for you to think about it.
No, it was literally go, go, go. Another thing that struck me was the fact that like everything in WWF was so interconnected. Like there had to be like maybe no more than 20 people on the show.
That was something I definitely thought about a lot. It's like the actual cast of that show was so small. Like, I think Undertaker appeared in half the segments, for example.
Like, we saw, I think it was 3 Rock entrances.
Yeah.
Undertaker appeared a good handful of times.
Big Show,
obviously, with Undertaker. X-Pac was in 3 different segments.
Billy Gunn.
Yeah. Like,
it recurred a couple of times. Road Dogg was in a couple of segments.
Like, so that's what, like, he did a lot with such a small crew. Which you don't think of 1999 WWF having a small crew, but I mean, week to week,
yeah,
maybe they did. Like,
I guess you don't. Maybe it's a looking back in hindsight now, where there's 400 people on the roster, and like maybe one of the lessons from the Attitude Era, like for all the trying to ape the Attitude Era over and over again, they have. Maybe one thing they didn't take forward that they should have is that like you should really concentrate your flagship show on a small number of people, get them over real good. Because I guess like one of the lessons that they were learning at the time was, hey, people really like The Rock. We should give them lots of The Rock. Well, because as long as The Rock is like. Is the Poochie thing. Like when The Rock isn't on the screen, people should be asking, where is The Rock?
Well, it's funny because in 97 and 98, that was absolutely Steve Austin. And it was amazing to me to see that in 99, because again, I don't remember thinking that at the time, I was only 13, that they absolutely replaced Steve Austin with The Rock as that guy that was in every segment that everyone was going, The Rock is on my hit list.
It was Austin and Vince was that like from Austin's kind of like crowning on through like the start of 99, and by the summer of 99, you're right, they've been supplanted. Like Vince is off TV at the moment, and it's The Rock and Triple H, because it's also the summer of Triple H. Remember when Triple H was good?
Well, we'll talk. I think we'll talk about it when we get to that segment in the show. But yeah, do you want to? Since we're talking so much WWF, do you want to start with Raw?
Right. Yeah. Let's start with Raw. And I guess there is a very distinct reason we picked this Raw to do a Nights of Nitro. This is a very important Monday night for a couple of reasons, one on each show. And we're going to get into why Raw very quickly. But I'll just mention this is Raw Edition 324. This is from the Allstate Arena in Chicago, Illinois. This is on the 9th of August, 1999. Now, what I'm going to do is do a little bit of a cheat and tell you that the rating for Nitro Now, bear in mind, Nitro, it's not like it's an irreversible decline where Nitro never won again after the 83 weeks. That's something we talked about recently that I'd like to definitely dispel. So I think that is the kind of headcanon of a lot of people that just listen to like Bischoff and people like that like once the streak was over,
they never won again.
Bischoff was out of power, they never won again. But that wasn't true. That was not true. So I'm going to tell you that Nitro did a 3.1 rating. Okay. And now I want you to tell me what you think Raw did if you haven't looked it up already.
If Nitro did a 3.1, I wouldn't be surprised if Raw did around 4.2, 4.3.
Well, you will be surprised because Raw did a 6.4.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
This was a fucking whomping. Like, more than double.
Holy shit.
That is, like, an extraordinary...
I didn't think it was still that high of a viewership number in, like, mid-99.
Yeah.
Like, I thought both had come down kind of to, like, maybe a high of a 5 even, but, like, fucking hell. Now, I wonder, were people tuning in for the Millennium Countdown?
So, here's the thing. This is why we're here on Raw. As you said, the cold open happens, and it's the countdown of the Millennium Clock. 1 hour, 25 minutes remain.
Not even the top of the hour.
Yes. Yeah. Deep into the second hour.
Mm-hmm.
Which is very interesting. I guess they probably have that thing. Like, there was a phenomenon, like, and it was a kind of widely held belief at the time, that people did do a little bit of channel hopping at the top of every hour. Mm-hmm. So maybe they thought people are going to hop over to Raw anyway. So there's no, like, and have a look at what's going on. So there's no point in putting it at the top of the hour. Let's put it at a time where people wouldn't normally switch over and see if we can get people to switch over. Yeah. I wonder, is that the wisdom here? Now, I'm going to rewind to the summer of 99 in our lives, Lee. So I had just turned 10 years old, which I think, would that have made you around 13? 13. Yeah. Did you know who the Millennium Man was?
Yes.
In advance?
I did.
So were you online at that stage?
No.
Were you a Power Slam reader at that stage?
I was a Power Slam reader. I got into Power Slam very early in my life.
Yeah.
I wasn't getting it every month because, I wasn't rich.
Yeah, it was like for the time. I remember that like for a magazine that came out. How often does it come out? Was it monthly?
I think it was monthly. It was monthly.
Yeah. It was like when we eventually turned to Euro. I remember it being like a €5-6 magazine, which at the time was scandalous.
It wasn't cheap. I can tell you that much.
No.
But no. Again, do you remember Teletext? Was Teletext a thing as you?
Oh yeah. The Sky Wrestling Rumors Teletext page.
The Sky Wrestling Text, yeah. That was definitely, if you knew enough, that was telling you it was Jericho. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I can't remember how exactly I knew. I think it would have been Power Slam that gave it away.
Yeah.
But I absolutely knew it was Jericho. I've talked about this before. I would go to a friend of mine's house on a Friday night. We would channel hop between TNT and Sky Sports and watch Raw and Nitro. Again, for any of our American listeners who may not be aware of this, we would not get Monday Night Raw or WCW Nitro until Friday nights.
Yeah.
At the peak of the Monday Night Wars. It was not on live.
Yeah.
You couldn't record it. It was Friday nights, 9 o'clock. TNT would come on after, what was it, the children's channel?
Cartoon Network. It would turn at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, to TNT. First thing on a Friday would be Nitro, and simultaneously Raw would be on Sky Sports.
Yeah. It was interesting because, and also I will say that broadcast of Raw stayed almost right up until, so they would start airing it live in the mid-2000s as well as keeping that Friday slot because it was such habitual viewing for people, but it became a Friday night at 10 p.m. Shortly after the invasion finished, because that was when I was like in late 2001, early 2002, I started staying in my granny's on a Friday night and they had Sky Sports, and I would then watch Raw for the first time. Like I'd watch it on tapes, but I'd watch it for the first time live, as live got in the UK and Ireland back then. But yeah, you would do Nitro would be on a Friday, and then if I'm not wrong, for a long time Thunder was the Saturday, and then towards like 2000 they would do them back to back on the same night on TNT.
Ooh, I can't again, by that era I wasn't seeing much WCW.
It was they would do Nitro, and then the night after they would do Thunder. But then, because obviously it's the end of the week, they would just air them back to back. Towards the end of the, like, I think it was around the time of the Miss Hancock wedding Nitro that TNT stopped airing over here.
Okay.
And that was the end of WCW for me.
Well, Channel 5 picked up.
Yeah. Which I didn't have.
Or Worldwide, whatever it was they had.
Yeah. But yeah, it was, for me, as like I said, just turned 10, I didn't know. So the last time I was ever surprised by a jump between the two companies was DDP.
Okay.
Because it was for my birthday. I think I told the story before that we watched DDP come out on Raw the morning of my birthday. And as a huge DDP fan, lost it. Never thought in a million years he'd be the stalker, I'll tell you that. But anyway, I think it was literally for that birthday I got a Power Slam subscription from my cousin.
Ah, okay.
So like after that I was more clued in. So that was the last one to surprise me. But yeah, Jericho, and it's funny because like we watched this show open, and immediately, like you said, people were in the know, because the first sign you see
is Jericho
on Nitro. They try to cut away from it so quickly, but it's the Millennium Man Chris Jericho sign you would then see
later
shown
on.
for much longer later. And it's just funny that even in 1999, for all the kind of like shit we gave fans back then, there was a lot more of them that were clued in than you'd necessarily have given credit for.
Well, I mean, look, you can shit on him all you want. There's a reason that Russo believed everyone was an internet fan. He was just 20 years ahead of the business, basically. Not to give him credit because he's a piece of fucking shit, but anyway.
But so on the signs, that was the first thing I noticed that was like absolutely incredible. The amount of signs. Not even that there were signs, but just the amount of them. Because like I've never been I think we've all been the guy at a live wrestling show who just is stuck behind a sign and miserable about it. But it's a real sign of wrestling's popularity when there are that many people who are willing to put the time into making some of these signs.
Well,
like,
see, that's
people fucking cared.
Because going to the show was an event of itself. And you wanted to have, like, everyone has, like, a funny chant now. Or they sing along to a song. Back then it was, you put up your sign. That was your way of being part of the show.
And it was your emotional connection, wasn't it? Because, like, some of these people, again, like, some of the signs are obviously just, like, someone just took a giant sheet of card and wrote on it with marker. But some of them are so fucking elaborate that, like, you're like, that's somebody that cared so much about Billy Gunn.
Yeah.
That they took several hours to design a sign for them. Or do a bit, you know? And, like, you know, now... Like you say, as much as sometimes the chants, there's the odd chant that's funny, or there's the odd, like the escalating video game bit signs that were happening in AEW for a long time. I think they might still be, but I just
still
kind of lost track of them. Yeah, like the odd time those ones laugh at me, like or make me laugh at me. That they make me laugh. It is a completely different vibe. Now it's more like I don't want to say it's exclusively fans trying to get themselves over now, but it feels a lot less genuine in terms of the actual connection to the people.
Actually, seeing you're mentioning the video game, but being that's a Botchamania thing.
Yeah.
Did you see the tweet I put a couple of weeks last week, the week before? Connor has decided he wants Botchamania merch for Christmas.
Matthew's made a fan.
Yeah, he's big into Matthew.
That's great. Because my WWE watching fell off. So did a lot of my Botchamania watching. And then I just recently, I think it might have been around the time you were talking about Connor, that you told me a while ago Connor was watching it. And when we were at Wembley, I saw all the people with the Taz signs, and we were talking about it at Wembley. I was like, I need to catch up with Botchamania, and I have been watching loads of them lately. And yes, the Taz bits are
fucking killer. He loves the Taz bits.
Oh, like they're so good.
I think some of the jokes go over his head, but he just does be fucking wetting himself laughing.
Because the thing is, like, I pop so much for a lot of the Taz lines on live TV, but then I clearly must miss a load of them as well, because I don't remember half of these ones. But anyway,
did you actually last night on Dynamite? Did you notice Excalibur and Shivani giving Taz a load of shit during the outbreak for calling Moxley wacky?
Yes. That was like, I was a very early adopter of somebody who would watch Dark like it was a podcast.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to hear Taz doing bits with Tony and Excalibur. But anyway, look, let's move on and talk about some Raw here. So the amount of signs really got me. And then first up, again, it's a thing that like I think AEW do very well now, where if they have somebody that they notice pops quarter hours, that's who's first out on the show. There is no coincidence that Orange Cassidy opens so many Dynamites.
Yeah.
But The Rock comes out straight away in a fabulously gaudy shirt. We learned the context that he was attacked on Heat, Sunday Night Heat, because this is when they were still trying to make Sunday Heat like it was an A show. So they did angles that on it that would play into Raw, and this one had The Rock being attacked by Show and The Undertaker. It's so funny because I'd say about 6 months from now, none of those three men would be caught fucking dead on Sunday Night Heat.
No, unless it was the Sunday Night Heat before a pay-per-view. Remember they did them as the 1 hour countdowns?
Yeah, they do them as the yeah. They do like the dark matches on it and stuff, or like during one of the many periods where Big Show was being punished. Quite possible. Like it's not too long after. Like it's is it early
2000s? Yeah, like
early 2000 when he gets sent down for being too fat to develop.
Right after WrestleMania.
Yes, after there's McMahon in every corner,
and he does the parody gimmick. Remember he comes back as the showster, Shokishi.
Yeah,
all that.
Goddamn.
What did you think of the camera shot after The Rock is in the ring, and they go backstage and Taker and Show are right at Gorilla?
They do some interesting camera stuff.
I really like that.
There's some really I actually had written that in my notes where it's been so long since Raw has done interesting things with camera work. And these weren't things that I was watching at the time. They weren't doing these kind of things full time. And there was a couple of things like this. There was an honest to God conversation between two men later on in this show where they were standing opposite each other, not in that weird semi-facing the camera talking to each other sort of way. And I was so put off by it because I'm so used to people standing like wrestlers having a conversation. But yeah, there was this so he's cutting his promo and it cuts backstage to Taker and Show looking through the curtain.
And Show goes to walk up the steps, yeah.
Yeah. Thought it was interesting. And again, there's also some shots of the backstage area where people are coming down the stairs to go out, which was just not a regular thing. Yeah,
again, later on before the main event, you see Show coming down the stairs and you see the sign, dressing rooms 1 and 2 up, pointing up. And I was like, that's it's good. Stuff like that, you don't get that anymore.
Yeah, very unusual.
What did you think of? So it's pretty basic Rock promo. There wasn't to it really, was there?
Well, so he does his it's the big slow, and he does one of my favorite demeaning Rock impressions, which is him doing the impression of Big Show doing the choke slam pose. All timer Rock. Especially, it's one of the ones that doesn't age like milk. The amount of the surprising amount of times that he does offensive Asian stereotypes that I had completely suppressed for a long time.
Or the amount of shit that him and Austin would pull on Lillian.
Yes, or the things he would describe Kevin Kelly as being.
Yes.
Yes. One thing I will say about The Rock that is a very fair criticism of his promos. The promos were much more engaging and much more electrifying, for want of a better term, during his initial run than his kind of cringy comeback run against Cena. But something that has been leveled at him in the past is he was a man who cut promos that got The Rock over exclusively, to the detriment of the person he was cutting the promo against.
Mm-hmm.
And the truly great wrestling promos are somebody that raises all ships. Because if you, again, and it's a very fair thing, if you completely decimate and discredit the person you're cutting a promo against that you're building the match with, who have you beaten?
Mm-hmm.
And he was definitely doing, like, this was a Big Show who, now again, given the impression Big Show's making in Stamford, I wouldn't be surprised if some of these lines were fed to The Rock, but it's not something he was just doing against the Big Show.
No,
You know?
he did it. Like, he did it to everybody. His thing was to belittle people. That's what The Rock was all about.
And it kind of works as a heel, because then you discredit Stay Stone Cold.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get your comeuppance.
Yeah.
He kicks your ass.
Yeah.
But like, this was babyface The Rock. So like, if babyface Rock is telling you that these guys are dog shit, hey, the good guy's telling us this guy's dog shit, he must be dog shit. And I feel like that's kind of like sealing Big Show's fate here to a certain extent, because he goes, all the Rock's fans see Big Show come out and say, I gotta take a leak, this guy sucks. Which,
yeah,
like,
not great.
yeah, because like you can do the thing where you're like, he's a big guy, so he's slow and he's stupid. You know, you're doing the just like Shane would later do the which way did he go and stuff. But there's ways you can play those tropes of the giant, and then like Big Show outsmarts you and wins the match. You know, but this is just he buried him, and Big Show didn't get his win back.
It feels like we saw for like 5 years straight everyone just take the piss out of Big Show.
Yeah.
Like Nash, Hall, Hogan.
It's kind of incredible with like, and even continuing on past this, with very, very small gaps where he was booked okay, or one particular stretch with Paul Heyman where he was.
I was just going to say up until the O2 Heyman run.
Yeah. Like most of his WWE career, it's incredible that he was as loyal to that company as he was, because so often he was a laughing stock.
He was the butt of every joke, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not saying this guy was just like an all-time worker or something like that, but just on a basic level of, he seemed to be a sound guy that got no respect or dignity for so long. Show and Taker come out, and Paul Bearer is with them. I was worrying for a second that this was going to, well, worrying and sort of excited for, was this Raw going to be the driving out to the desert on their motorcycles Raw? But I think that's
that was a couple
happened.
of weeks. It was a couple of weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, it was in between the last Raw we covered and this one, sadly.
Yeah, that's when they formed the Unholy Alliance.
Yes. So Rock stands his ground as a babyface. He's not going to bail on the two guys, but they beat him down. Then X-Pac comes in, which apparently for everybody, this is return. He had a suspected concussion, and he's back now. He's out. Then I wrote, Road Dogg is out for some reason, because I guess like the DX men are still loosely affiliated, even though Billy Gunn, Triple H, and Chyna are all off doing their thing.
Yeah, so Triple H left the night after WrestleMania. Him and Chyna were in the corporation. Then Billy left sometime around, I want to say Fully Loaded. Probably a little bit earlier, maybe.
Was it before or after King of the Ring?
It was just before, I think, because didn't he beat X-Pac in King of the Ring? And that kind of, I think it would have been right after he won, he fully left and turned heel.
Yeah. So King of the Ring is, start of the summer, so this is
so
like
him, X-Pac and Road Dogg were like the last two remnants.
Yeah.
Didn't they do Chyna and Billy against Road Dogg and X-Pac for the DX name?
Oh, they might have.
I think they did.
That does sound familiar, yeah. So Road Dogg comes out. What's really funny is that in this frantic moment where there's two monsters either side of him, he tries to do the shake, rattle, and roll, which involves a long period of dancing in between strikes, and it allows, I can't remember, I think it was Big Show he was doing the shake, rattle, and roll to. It allows him to completely recover, and Undertaker was just standing there the whole time, and they just beat the shit out of him. And then, third time's a charm, the actual backup comes in the form of Kane. Mm-hmm. And one thing I wrote at the end of this when they finally cleared the heels out of the place is, as much as it was a stable that absolutely outstayed its welcome and came back way too many times, killed all the nostalgia people had for it, the DX music rules.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so good. I think I said on this show before, I am much more the King of Rock remix guy, but even the original DX music, just that bass line is just so goddamn good.
You can't watch it on a show and not go, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's great. A limo pulls up. Everyone assumes it's Jesse Ventura because we know he's going to be here tonight on Raw. Door opens. It's not Jesse Ventura. It's pilled up Shawn Michaels.
Straight from the pharmacy.
Pupils fucking erupting out of his head as he came out. But Jesus, a fine head of hair on the man, I have to say.
He's no Nick Jackson at this point, I'll give him that.
Yeah, the hair had not started to go by a long shot. It was luscious, it was voluminous. It was as a long hairsman myself, I was very impressed by the body it had.
Where else are you going to get Shawn Michaels' hair discussion?
I tell you, and if it wasn't for the fact that he was fucking zonked out of his brain, the long flowing hair beard look was working for an older Shawn Michaels. You know, I think in 1999, if the man was wrestling, it would have been an unbelievable look. It's just something about the stubble says this is Attitude Era Heartbreak Kid, but it was actually just he's out of his fucking gourd Heartbreak Kid.
Nobody wanted to give him a razor just in case.
Yeah, we get the first of two commercials for StoneCold.com.
Did you ever go on any of those superstar pages?
No, never.
I did. They were awful.
I remember noticing them start to pop because there was a while in 2000 where they started putting them in the lower thirds.
They did.
Undertaker would come out and it would say Undertaker.com.
Mm-hmm.
And shit like that. Never went. What were they like?
Just like flashing image, like photos, and think of like a 90s website. That's what they were.
Yeah, would it like autoplay like an 8-bit version of
of their song?
Tune?
Yeah. Just so bad.
Yeah, I kind of like that. Yeah, the ads were really cringy. X-Pac and Kane backstage reunited, and they challenge the Acolytes for the belts tonight. Singles match next. Christian versus Gangrel. Christian's music is as bad as Gangrel's is good, I have written.
Okay, Dave, let's have a discussion.
Okay.
Who in 2023 decided to renew their career by returning to their Brood roots?
I know what. Are you trying to lead me down a path here?
Yeah, I am.
You want me to say Edge?
Yeah, it's Edge.
Okay, yeah.
So, this is summer of 1999. When did the Brood begin?
Oh. I don't know.
Like late 98?
Late 98. They're still together at Mania.
They are.
Because they're involved in the worst Hell in a Cell match of all time.
They are. But they're broken up by midsummer at the very latest of 1999.
Yeah. It was a very brief period of time and they weren't good.
Yes.
Apart from the theme song.
And yet, you have these fucking idiots pining for Brood Edge.
Yeah.
Brood Edge, Dave.
Brood Edge is the funniest thing of all time, I
think. He came out as Brood Edge, a character he portrayed for all of 6 months. That was no different to previous Edge or Edge that followed after.
Did the new Brood last nearly as long?
No, Jesus, no. The new Brood lasted until the No Mercy match.
Oh, yeah.
So what, 3 months?
The Terry Invitational Tournament, you mean?
Well, I didn't. Yeah.
Some respect on that woman's name, please.
But yeah, I just wanted to say, like, here we are in August of 99 and we're getting Christian against Gangrel.
Yeah.
Fuck all them idiots.
Music is great though, isn't it?
Oh, it's so good.
Like it's so
So fucking
it's
good.
so disproportionately good for how fucking bang average. God bless Gangrel.
Also, it was Gangrel's music,
Fang-
not the fucking Broods.
Yeah, fanging and banging, love it. Man lived literally, I think, the dream of every man who was like a teenager and adult in the 90s. He was a professional wrestler while there was money in that, and then he just went straight into porn.
And still makes money doing professional wrestling conventions.
He might be the most 90s man. Because as well, he had a vampire gimmick when like Buffy was on TV. So
He
it
did.
was so 90s. It was so 90s.
He married an alternative woman, Luna.
Yes. Ah, what a man. I love as well, right? So there's two things about this entrance that rock apart from the music, right? And it's firstly, the underrated part of Gangrel's entrance is the Gangrel strut.
Oh yeah, the bounce.
Gangrel struts like a man who is not Gangrel. He struts like in his head. He's hearing the World Wrestling Federation champion, Gangrel.
Do you not get the impression that man made it by just getting this far?
Oh, look. Do you know, I don't want to say stealing a living, because he wasn't terrible in the ring.
No, he wasn't.
He was fine. Like, he was kind of like, he was part of this mid-card of guys who were just like exceptionally good hands for the time. Like, you know, Val Venus always had that rep where he was just like, he's an unbelievable hand in the ring, just like never breaking out of a certain level because of his gimmick or whatever else. And also him being an insane man now, in Val Venus's case. I feel like that's the Gangrel thing. As a guy who watched a lot of him on Metal and Shotgun, I thought he was pretty decent. Impaler DDT rocks. The other thing I love about his entrance here is that immediately when the bell rings, you can hear fire extinguishers trying to put out the fire on the ramp from his entrance. Like literally ding ding ding, and you hear the background.
God bless 1999 WWF and their high production values.
Yeah. You're going to hear a lot of this on this show, because this is kind of the Raw formula at the time. Things happen of varying qualities for 90 seconds on this show. This particular 90 seconds in this match was pretty good.
Yeah, it was. It was pretty decent.
But what happens is a match will happen for 90 seconds, and either it'll be one of three things. It'll be pretty good, it'll be pretty bad, or it'll be fucking boring. And then the angle happens.
Somebody runs out, yeah.
Yeah. So this goes for 90 seconds, and it's pretty good. Then the Hardys come out. What I love about this is, like, do you see the level the Hardys are pitched at this point? Because Christian does a plancha to the outside and takes out both of them quite easily in about 5 seconds, which I found very funny. Then he walks back into the ring into blood sprayed in his face, an implant DDT, and the win. Then Edge comes out to stop the beatdown. I will say, was it one of the better spears Edge ever hit?
Yes, it was.
It actually looked like...
Not quite as good as the spear we'll discuss on Nitro later on.
Yes.
But yeah, no, it was a good spear.
A good like on the Edge scale, it's probably in his top 5 or 10% of spears ever. Like, it actually looked like an impactful move, which his never does. So he fails to stop the beatdown, and then of course who's going to come and help? Michael Hayes comes out to talk sense into the Hardys.
Yes, dressed as the third Hardy.
If you had forgotten, inexplicably Michael Hayes managed the Hardys, and like you said, dressed like them. And this got the Hardys then turn on the former Doc Hendricks, and this is greeted with absolute silence. No one gave a shit, and this was a hot Attitude Era crowd, and it was silent.
So Dave, I have a question. Are you now going to be pining for Brood Matt Hardy in AEW?
Obviously. Well, that's the thing. That's why they're bringing Edge in, I'm sure. Because you get Gangrel in there, and you can just have the United Brood for the first time.
The United Brood.
Yeah, in Blood and Guts against the BCC. BCC versus the UB.
Oh
Book
my
it, Tony.
God.
Book it. Do you think there's actually a decent chance that, with the exception of Christian, who's obviously still an excellent professional wrestler, number 2 on your list of people that could still go in 2023, it's a toss-up that Gangrel is in with a shout of being number 2 on that list.
Yeah, it's Gangrel or Edge.
Yeah. And if Edge's output in AEW is anything like it is in WWE, then that second spot is definitely open for competition. And I don't think either Hardy brother is getting near it.
No, God, no. Fuck.
So I love as well that this is treated with such apathy by the crowd that Gorilla Vince just says, just hit the music, end the segment. So their music starts playing that's like the get out of there, get out of there. So they leave. We go backstage. The Acolytes, Farouk and Bradshaw, accept the challenge. They call X-Pac a chihuahua and say that even the Undertaker and the Big Baboon can't beat them. There's not one person who isn't sticking a boot into Big Show on this program.
So many people taking shots at Big Show on this show.
It's so rough, man. It's so rough. I feel so bad for him. Then we get, tremendously entertaining, The Rock's Chef Boyardee commercial.
Yes, we did.
A fabulous slice of, like, I don't know if you were a WWF magazine purchaser back in the day.
No, Jesus, never.
When again, it was probably like our relative ages that, like, when WWF magazine was really easy to get over here, I was the right age for it. And you could not move for the Chef Boyardee.
Yeah.
It was Chef Boyardee and the Dare to Be Drink Aware. Also there was the tobacco is wacko if you're a teen ads.
Oh Jesus!
Those were the 3 staples. The thing I loved about the WWF magazine is that because it was the decent quality glossy magazine paper, every month had an A4 size pay-per-view poster for the next month's pay-per-view. So I had on my wall like a string of all the cool pay-per-view posters from like 99, 2000 and up to 2001. It's like including the like, and I loved it. It's one that I'd probably get framed on the wall if I had a proper good high quality one. You remember the one of the Royal Rumble 2001 poster?
Yes,
where they are like the painted impressions of them all kind of like, that's a really good poster, man. Where were we? Oh yes, the Chef Boyardee commercial, proper slice of late 90s, early 2000s nostalgia. The extra stuffed ravioli. Yeah,
don't be a jabroni, eat beef ravioli.
Yeah, there was such a Chef Boyardee were proper in bed with WWF for a long time around this period. We get a huge reception for Jesse the Body Ventura coming out to speak with the King.
Also, Jesse Ventura's music is a bop.
It is a bop. And Jesse as well, so for context, has just, as he would say himself, shocked the world and been elected governor of Minnesota not too long before this return to WWF after, should we call it bad blood for want of...
he sued Vince for a lot of money.
Yes, yeah. Him and Vince, never been big fans of one another.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was the whole thing of Hogan ratting out Jesse for trying to start a union.
Yeah.
Then Jesse sued Vince for all his royalties that he was due.
Yeah.
And as is with Vince, he actually respected Jesse for actually suing him and brought him back.
Yeah. Jesse is in that long line of people that people swore when he finished with Vince, never going to appear on WWF TV again. I was that true maxim of when Vince was in charge, that there is no line someone can cross that Vince wouldn't eventually do business with you. He brought Jarrett back. He brought Warrior back. He brought Jesse back. He would bring anyone back.
He tried to bring Master back.
I was going to say, except Phil Brooks.
Nobody wants Phil Brooks.
It's so funny. Like, I think one of the things that's underrated about that story of him getting kicked out of the building when he went to that Raw taping was what a stooge Triple H is, that he was so afraid Vince would get mad that he got security to escort Punk out of the building rather than ask him to leave himself.
The old man says no.
Yeah.
Actually, did you see that story about
coward to the end
about Vince at the all staff meeting
with the cane?
Yeah.
I mean, like, if he didn't look like a silent movie villain already enough with that stupid fucking mustache and the shoe polish dye, having a cane as well.
But
Now, I know he's just had serious back surgery, and I, less than half his age, would probably need a cane after serious back surgery. But yeah, it doesn't, for somebody who would only portray himself as invincible when being viewed by people in public, like, it is mad that he would willingly be seen with a cane.
But you see, they recorded it as if it was a live show.
Oh no!
And he made the all the staff clap for him like they were a crowd.
God. Like when he does that thing where he,
I am Vince McMahon, damn it.
Yeah. Well, that's
fucking weird.
It's genuinely embarrassing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So anyway. Jesse comes out. Here's the thing I was going to say. So he's been elected governor of Minnesota, and here's the thing. For whatever you want to say, like people will talk about how he wasn't a very good wrestler, right?
He wasn't
a very good wrestler. But one, the charisma of the man cannot be denied.
Mm-hmm.
And two, something that it makes so much sense that this man was put in commentary when he was, because I think it's a top 5 speaking voice in the history of professional wrestling. His speaking voice is great. It has that timbre to it of like just professional broadcaster.
I just associate his voice with wrestling.
Yeah.
It's that I've never really thought of it that way. Yeah, I've never really thought of it that way, but you're right. It's perfect for pro wrestling.
Yeah. And one of those in the canon of like Dusty Rhodes and people like that, he's on the list of people that whenever he comes up in a story, people have to do the voice because the voice is so distinctive. But anyway, he says he's got 3 points to make about why he was named the referee for SummerSlam for the world title match. He says, number 1, I was a wrestling champion. People forget that. Number 2, I was the first referee at a SummerSlam. Because even then, he says something about, like, I could put down the law, or I knew the rules. Or
yeah, he refereed the first SummerSlam main event, Hogan and Beefcake, wasn't it? Against Zeus and... No, it wasn't. It was Hogan and Savage against Megabucks. That's what it was. That was the first one.
And then point number 3, in a direct shot to who knows, he was legitimately a Navy SEAL. Not like all these people that go around pretending to have been in the army.
Mm-hmm. We should say Jesse then spends the next 2 to 3 minutes taking shots at all of his enemies.
Yes. This is definitely a Jesse Ventura addresses his enemies, including Vince.
Yes.
But, you know, here's the thing that we all know about Vince as well, is that Vince did get tickled sometimes by people lighting him up on TV. And it's weird because, like, he wouldn't let people do it all the time, but sometimes he was kind of into it.
Like the Heyman promo, yeah.
The Heyman promo is the most infamous. It's like, gonna make me money! If you've never seen Paul Heyman tell the story of that infamous promo,
the background
to it, 2001, it's fantastic. I don't think anyone else on earth would ever get away with it. Like, even mentioning Vince's father on television, let alone all the other stuff he said. But yeah, just a weird man for sometimes. Like, you can't say anything bad about Vince, but sometimes he really wants you to stick the boot in. So where am I here? Oh yes, he said he is the only one. WWF could only call him to lay down the authority to crown a new WWF champion. He calls Vince, and I quote, a scumbag in this. And then Triple H comes out, and we mentioned it last time we did a Nites of Nitro Raw crossover, but we've already mentioned one all-timer wrestling theme on this show. Actually 2, Gangrel and DX. My Time is right up there.
I do enjoy My Time, but I think it's because it was around not very long. That's why I like it so much.
We've had like nearly 25 years of time to play the game.
Yeah.
For a man who like plumbed the depths of what little nostalgia existed for him, it's kind of surprising he never went back to My Time.
Well, see, going back to teams is only a new thing that they've started doing.
Yeah, but you remember, because he went back to, like, they did, obviously, they brought
They use
back Evolution.
King of Kings
Yeah.
every now and again, and that's what they used as the alternative for Triple H.
He was a suit boy.
I don't know if we talked about this last time, but it was only when I was watching the show back, I kind of thought about it. It was a really big deal to give Triple H a SummerSlam main event.
Yeah.
Like a really big vote of confidence.
They were pushing this guy to the moon.
Like, if I remember correctly, he beat Rocky in a strap match to win the number one contendership, I think, at Fully Loaded.
Yeah.
I
guess it's a thing where, like, circumstance kind of dictated it as well, because
they just don't take
Rock had turned back babyface.
Mm-hmm.
Foley was obviously a made babyface for life by this point.
Yeah. Well, they had done the Foley heel stuff post Mania.
Yeah.
Then they did Taker to follow it up.
I think it was even a thing though. Like, now this is my recollection. I haven't watched this TV in a long time, but he was being portrayed as a heel, but people still liked him too much.
Yes, they were. Yeah.
He was never getting the top heel energy ever again. By 99. So you kind of on the heel side in terms of main event heels at this point, it was just Taker.
Well, like I said, they just done Taker Austin.
Yeah.
They obviously had no faith in Show.
Yeah.
Shamrock was fully a face at this point, and they weren't going to give him a heel.
And on his way out the door.
Yeah. So yeah, there really wasn't, and we know Austin wasn't working with Jarrett.
Yeah. And Jarrett's contract was coming up
as well
2 weeks later.
Yeah. So, there really wasn't anyone else, but I do think it was kind of a sign of, right, well, we got to push this guy.
Yeah. And they did, and this was the thing, is like, at the time when they were firing on all cylinders during the Attitude Era, when they decided to go with someone, they fucking went with them.
Mm-hmm.
They fucking went with them. And they really did with Triple H. And he, again, it's so funny. He feels more genuinely big time in this segment than he did during, like, his reign of terror a few years later, where they're trying to make you think this guy is Harley Race.
I really thought he was great on the mic here. Like, opposite Jesse.
Dude, I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. Like, the run from, like, early to mid 99 all the way up till the quad tear, this guy was killing it. He
understood it. He knew what he was.
He knew what he was. It was before he was doing the long promos to start the show, but it was getting genuine heat at the time. You know, and it wasn't just like tropey, not getting heat bullshit. And he was very good in the ring. Like, people forget that because of how long he's not been good. And also, I think, you know, the WWE brainworms people really over-egg how good latter-day Triple H is, where, like, he might have 1-2 good matches a year, if that, towards the end of his career. He was nothing. Like, the 99-2000 Triple H could work circles around this guy. He was... I really liked him. I hated him, but I liked him because of it. And yeah, he feels really big time here, and he was great on the mic. He says that Jesse is stuck in the 70s. He doesn't care if he was with the president, doesn't care who he is. If I feel like kicking your ass, I will. Then Sean comes out, and he said, Triple H, don't forget, Jesse the Body has standards and practices he must adhere to. I don't, though. Then you get to see, you had said in our Discord channel that you see the many faces of Shawn Michaels tonight, and one of them was here when he forgot the name of the company he worked for,
and he had to look for Jesse and go, World Wrestling Federation.
yeah. It was the little for Wrestling Federation. Is that it? Jesse's like,
it was a real Ron Burgundy moment.
Yeah.
Because he gets all garbled mouth. He's like, and he looks at Jesse. He's like, lying.
He said, you say this ring is your world, but don't forget I brought you into it. Triple H shoves him. Sean takes his jacket off, and Sean is still jacked, by the way. It looks like he's ready to go. And this is another thing as well, is like, I had kind of forgotten like, because I was so hyped when he came back in 2002. I've talked about this so many times, and not even just on this podcast. I brought it up I was just on the Must See Matches podcast talking about the X7 main event, and Sean came up in that. I was talking about, like, the 2002 return. I was so plugged in and so hyped for him. But, like, Sean left right when the company got nuclear hot. Like, he had to retire. And it's such a sliding doors thing. Like, what would Sean through 98 and 99 have looked like? But you could tell by the crowd reaction when he took his jacket off that this guy would have, they would have the rating or the buy rate this would have done if he could have come back 99 or 2000 would have been through the roof.
There's a reason they spent 4 years teasing the Triple H match.
Yeah. God, that match. Anyway, right, I'm gonna go down a wheel of nostalgia there for how much I love that match. Maybe my last, like, proper high rated Triple H match of all time.
I hate that I was like an hour away from that match happening.
You didn't go to it?
I couldn't. I was 16.
Yeah, such a shame.
I hate it.
So he takes his jacket off. Jesse breaks up the fight. He whispers in Sean's ear. Sean says, "Great idea from the body. It's going to be Austin versus Undertaker versus Triple H tonight." And I was very confused because I had already copied and pasted the card for tonight down, and I had forgotten what happens next. And I was like, "What?" So then we get a teaser for for what's going to be our next crossover across the brands. The SmackDown season debut is coming at the end of August.
We're doing another simulcast for that one, yeah?
Yeah, I think we'll do or even maybe a standalone of the debut of SmackDown, because now Thunder has competition. I think it's an interesting one to talk about historically. We get a little skit with D'Lo jogging with Mark Henry. They're doing this thing where, like, the two of them are buds, and D'Lo is Eurocontinental champion at the time. He's helping Mark Henry get in shape. Very funny. Helping an Olympian get in shape. Goes into the woods to take a leak. Jeff Jarrett hops out of a car and batters D'Lo and then runs away.
Yeah.
Then we have the singles match. Jeff Jarrett versus Val Venus. A bunch of men dressed in bras have a sign saying that they'll show theirs if Deborah will show hers. And she acknowledges them repeatedly through her entrance, much to the chagrin of Jeff. 1999, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Then the porn man comes out.
Who'd have thought the porn man would be the least problematic man in this match?
Indeed. He barely manages to get his hello ladies out before Jeff jumps him. JR in the most vague, there's something happening, but I am not going to tell you about it because I want you to keep tuned in for the next segment. He goes, "We've just got an update from backstage that something happened. We have no details." They spend the whole time in this match talking about something's happening. I'm hearing reports. Apparently these reports had no detail though. Absolutely nothing happens in this match. Deborah gets up to distract. Jeff nearly takes her out. Val wins with a Blue Thunder Bomb.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Did not know he had that in the locker. Don't remember that. Val returns to help Deborah because she's getting berated in the ring by Jeff because Jeff is doing the I'm a massive sexist gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
We go to the back and Austin is dead.
Not for the last time in 1999, Steve Austin is dead in the backstage area.
A man has been fucking killed. Stone dead at the bottom of the stairs. What I find hilarious is a bunch of medics and referees come to check on him and somebody goes, "He must have tripped," and literally in the same shot while they're saying this, you could see a cinder block shattered beside his head. It's like,
coincidence.
He must have tripped and fell down the stairs and gone face first into this cinder block. Sean comes out to the ring. Weirdly, he's put his jacket back on but took his shirt off.
Yes. So Shawn Michaels was backstage shirtless.
Do you know what I think actually happened? I think this guy was enjoying himself all night and forgot he had a middle segment in between his initial segment and refereeing the match. So I think he was changing. And so when Sean, what the fuck are you doing? You have to go back out. And he's like, I just need the blazer.
Again, though, in incredible shape.
Incredible shape. So he blames Triple H. And again, here's the thing. Running through his career, Austin dead backstage segments. Triple H responsible for heinous attacks on people backstage in segments.
We kind of skipped over. I did love Triple H on. I'm going, what happened?
Yeah, that was pretty good.
The innocence. It was very well done.
But it was like, it was supposed to be disingenuous, and it was very, very good. So he comes out and he blames Triple H. Triple H comes out and he says, you know what? The triple threat match is now Falls Count Anywhere, and I'm putting your number one contendership at SummerSlam on the line. Triple H fucking loses it. And he says, do you know what as well? I'm going to be the special guest referee.
I thought Sean was lost here. He kept stumbling over his words. He kept losing track of where he needed to go.
Yeah.
I thought Triple H did well getting him back on track, going, well, who's the third person in the match?
Yeah. He has this big smile on his face. It's like, I think you saw him go off in the ambulance as well, Chief. And he goes, yes, but we're going to name a replacement. And as soon as he says replacement, this crowd are buzzing. And the China chants start.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't remember how long they've been laying it on that she was going to turn on him.
Mm-hmm.
But
well,
it's clearly...
turned previously.
Yes. I recall. Yeah, I vaguely recall that. So as soon as he says it's going to be a replacement, people are chanting for China.
Mm-hmm. She was incredibly over in 99.
She was, and he's like, "Who could I possibly pick? Who would stab their own mother in the back for one chance?" And when he says China, the pop is enormous, and I love Triple H's reaction as well. I was like, nah.
It's like something like, okay, you've had your fun. We're not putting China in the match. Who's the third guy?
I have to say, China sells this brilliantly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he says China, and for a moment she's shocked, but her face lights up.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, she has that realization that this is the chance to be like, she could be the World Wrestling Federation champion. And then when he's in the middle, like, is nah. He just goes, she's just a girl, and her face
fucking
just
drops.
changes. Yeah. And then she just takes the microphone off and says, I accept. But Sean stood all over her line. And then she looks Triple H up and down and says, just a woman, try me. Which is great.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, we'll talk about the booking of the match in a while, but they really should have had, like, her just fucking whipping his ass in this. But I guess, like, this is 1999. They weren't going to have Triple H look weak against a woman. That was, I have no doubt, the mindset with the way they booked this main event, but we'll talk about it in a bit. Backstage, Triple H and China continue to argue. He's saying it came out wrong because he's realized he's fucked now. Then we get our WWF World Tag Team title match. The Acolytes versus Kane and X-Pac. Mashup entrance for
first
Kane
time
and
ever.
X-Pac.
Yes.
A little insight into 1999, Dave. Fucking loved the Kane and X-Pac
Oh, it was so good.
It was so good. The world was robbed of a long run of green Kane.
And now we have blue Kane on the indies.
Yes, sadly. Big sign here saying the Nick, whoever that is, fears Sick Boy. Big Sick Boy fans here on Monday Night Raw. Kane absolutely batters Bradshaw early in the match. Bradshaw hits a hard Irish whip into the corner. The Acolytes isolate Kane. I noticed a Limp Bizkit sign. X-Pac was a great hot tag guy. Comes in, runs wild until Farouk rings his bell with a spine buster. I love the Farouk spine buster. hit an almighty spine buster. Kane hot tag. Bradshaw and Kane start brawling outside. X-Pac goes up for the Dominator but slips out. X Factor, and we've got new champions. I love that they won. They got a huge reaction, but I feel like the post-match people weren't allowed to drink in the moment because they had to shoot about 46 angles in 30 seconds. So they go to cut a promo and says, Pac says, if you ain't down with that, Kane's got 2 words for you. And he goes to use the voice box, and X-Pac takes it off and says, you don't need that anymore. Or was it Road Dogg took it off?
No, it's X-Pac took it off.
Oh, it's X-Pac, yeah. So he takes it off and says, you don't need that anymore. And Kane does the suck it. It's the first time he's spoken.
Yeah, without the voice box.
Yeah. Big Show and Undertaker come out then, jump them and beat them down. So we get 2 moments where they were going to celebrate and then interrupted by angles. That's a shame. Then we get GTV.
Hell yeah.
I didn't forget GTV, but I forgot that GTV had theme music.
Yes, it did.
Billy Gunn is on a table. He is getting a massage.
Mm-hmm.
And the masseuse puts salad on what she describes as his robust buttocks.
I thought she called it his moneymaker.
No, he called it his moneymaker.
Oh, he did. Okay.
She described it as his robust buttocks.
I mean, she's not wrong.
We saw a lot of it on this show.
I mean, it's 1999. We saw his ass every week.
So much. So he was Mr. Ass. Still is, I guess. Tag team match up next. I'll talk about a galaxy of stars. Ken Shamrock and Test versus Joey Abs and Steve Blackman.
So, before the match, we got the highlight footage of Test taking out the Mean Street Posse one by one.
Yep, we're
Great,
doing the
great stuff.
We're doing the angle where Test and Steph are besotted, betrothed, in love, and Shane McMahon is not happy about this and is trying to take out Test repeatedly using his goons. And Test has now been, he has basically crippled Pete Gas and Rodney over the last few weeks. And Joey Abs is the only one left, as we all predicted.
It was Rodney had the broken arm, Pete Gas had like the broken chest, or so he fucked him up somehow.
Yeah.
And so basically Joey Abs is the last remaining blockage before he gets to Shane.
Shane was on commentary for this, and he was unacceptably annoying for the couple of minutes he was on here.
Remember, Shane McMahon, the voice of WWF video games at this point.
Yeah, WWF Attitude co-commentator.
Mm-hmm.
Another top 10 of all time theme song, Ken Shamrock.
Yes. Still on playlist now. If I want something to get me hyped, Ken Shamrock's music.
It's kind of a shame that like it was given to him because he left in 99. That like it should have been with somebody that stayed for years and years and years.
Mm-hmm.
Or just given to somebody. Like I don't know who it'd work with. Like immediately the person that used to come to mind was like who would have been great with his music would have been Benoit. But again, equally we wouldn't be able to use that music anymore.
Love Ken Shamrock.
What a man. And a guy who there was a brief window there where he could have quite credibly been WWF champion.
He main evented the pay-per-view.
Yeah. He's not there right now. That is not what he's doing at SummerSlam 99, let me tell you.
Unfortunately.
We'll get to that in a few minutes. This match got my biggest laugh on the whole show because this match starts with Joey Abs trying to stand and throw punches with Ken Shamrock. Which goes very poorly for him.
The lack of respect.
Blackman has to come in and bail him out. Shane sneak attacks Test. Shane keeps distracting him and being very annoying on commentary until Shamrock's just like, Joe, I've had enough, and absolutely beans him with a kendo stick.
I actually thought that was very good because Shane had the chair and Shamrock beans the chair with the kendo stick, and Shane sends it flying into the ring, which plays into the finish.
Yeah. Test then beats Joey off a pump handle slam. Test then points up the ramp at Shane, who is retreating, and then Pillmanizes Joey Abs' ankle
Repeatedly.
Yes, repeatedly. So that is all three of the Mean Street Posse hospitalized now at the hands of Test. Next segment, I wrote, poor Jane the seamstress. Billy Gunn got his arse out for her. 'Cause that is the seamstress, isn't it?
Yes.
I recognise her, yeah.
She was there for many years.
No, she was until like relatively recently, I think. We find out that he has poison ivy on his arse from the salad leaves. And he was wearing a nice lacy number under his jocks. Rock is on his way out. Test has an interview with Cole. He says all him and Steph want is to be left alone. He's pretty fired up in this, and he says there's no one left now between me and you, Shane. And there was like, God, if Test would like ever had put it together during this period where they thought about pushing him, like if he actually could have been pretty good in the ring, like he probably would have made it. But
nah, they killed him dead with the Steph Triple H stuff.
Yeah. So Blackman then. Oh, and this was the bit where it was Blackman talking backstage. I can't remember who it is interviewing him.
Terry Taylor.
Oh, it was Terry Taylor, yeah. So the two of them are standing, but not facing the camera. They're literally facing as if you and I were having a conversation and the camera just happens to be there. And I was so weirded out by it. It's like they were standing like normal people talking. Really strange. But he says, I will step into the lion's den, which must have been a challenge Shamrock had laid down before this Raw. And he goes, but I will only do it on my terms, and that's if there's weapons hanging around the ring. So SummerSlam 99, Lion's Den, it's on.
Lion's Den weapons match.
It's time for the segment that we did this show for. The Rock is out, talks shit on the Big Show. And then the Millennium Clock strikes 0, Lee. And Chris Jericho comes out. One thing I always forget, because if I watch this moment, it's usually like the YouTube version, which has compressed sound. So if you watch this on the network version, or if you have a decent version recorded yourself, as soon as the clock starts to count down, you can hear Jericho chants.
I don't know what you have to say on this, but I thought from the moment the countdown clock begins, like mid promo, I loved everything about this. I love that it didn't go at 10, it started at 15. You get that little bit extra bit of anticipation. You get the pyro, and then you get the
another all-timer theme song.
Yeah, and then like you get the pyro, the flashing lights, and then the lights go out.
Yeah. And that moment, that roar as soon as the word Jericho appears on the screen.
Oh my God, it's an all-timer. If you'd never gone back and watched it, like we talked about it, people knew. There was a lot of people that knew. But go back to when Punk debuted in AEW. Everybody knew why they were there. Yeah. But until they actually come out, you always have that doubt.
Sure. You knew, but you're not sure.
And it was the same with Jericho. And as soon as Jericho pops up on that Tron, my God, did they lose it.
But it's also, and like, here's the thing, is like, I'm going to praise the WWF with one hand and then slap them down with the other. Because Jericho was a guy who was firmly slotted in the middle of the mid-card in WCW. Much as he was getting himself over way more than his slot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people would have absolutely been up for him being pushed further up the card. But the perception of him on national TV this whole time has been mid-carder. In one night, you could have made a top guy here. It's just that they didn't follow up on him for pretty much his entire first run in the company.
Wow.
And look,
he says himself, it was a lot self-inflicted.
Yes. It's not all their fault. And the thing is, if you were around at the time, as we both were, there were a few occasions where they teased going with him, and people wanted it.
He was on the original WrestleMania 16 poster. It was him, not Foley.
They did the Dusty finish with him beating Triple H on Raw, which is still one of the loudest pops you will ever hear on a Raw when he beat Triple H. And it's one of those Dusty finishes that, like, I mean, we all trash some Dusty finishes.
No, they went through a break with this one. It was so good.
It was so good. if they had followed that, giving the belt back to Triple H, with Jericho actually getting a shot and winning the title, then it would have all been worth it. And again, you would have made the guy. But this guy oozed superstar in this segment. The segment, you could argue, and I will hear the argument, that it maybe went a little too long.
It did.
And because it went a little too long, I feel like he tried to get a few more catchphrases up and running than he maybe should have in one go. Yeah. I'll give you that.
He took a few too many close to the vest shots at the whole company.
Yes.
And he probably should have kind of edited himself a little.
Yeah. But you get it. First night in, excitement, trying to make a name for yourself. Fair enough. The main pot shot I will take at this segment is, once again, I will slate him for the exact same thing I slated him last time he was out in the ring talking about a wrestler on this show. For all the work they did to make this a genuine superstar debut, which they did do, The Rock just immediately poo-poos him. Mm-hmm. And if you have, like, arguably your top babyface now, or your 1B babyface behind Austin, if you have him poo-poo this guy, then that's a message, isn't it, to fans?
We just talked about it. They had no top heels.
Yeah.
Like, Billy Gunn is facing The Rock SummerSlam.
Yeah.
This was a guy that they had every chance to bring in and be a kind of top of the card worker. That's actually another thing. Jericho is the first jump from WCW to WWF that really raised the level of the WWF for me.
Yeah.
I think if you went and looked at the average match time of a Raw match in 1999 compared to 2000,
yeah,
it has to be night and day. Like, Jericho's the first, I don't want to call super worker, but he's definitely a guy that they could throw out there and say, here's 12 minutes, go do something. Instead of Christian and Gangrel getting, 3.5, 2? 2.5 maybe?
Yeah. I think, like, it would go up, the level of work would obviously go up much higher when the Radicals arrived.
Angle being a fucking once in a generation.
Yeah, but I really think one of the things that was important about the Jericho jump was, I think there was a lot of people in WCW watching the other channel that night.
Portrayed.
It's the thing people keep saying about, like, when Cody went to WWE, it was so important that they protected him, because now it shows other guys that are maybe thinking of leaving AEW that they won't be buried.
Yeah, you probably just won't get hired now.
Yeah, now they probably won't get hired. But at the time, when it was a real war of, like, we want people to, like, tease people away from the other company, it was really important to do that. And I think Jericho, as maybe the first man over the line of demarcation in that direction for a long time, I think it was really important that, even though, like I said, they don't follow it up and the man ends up in an internal feud with China and with a bunch of other people, like, they really don't get that guy in something meaningful that gets hugely over until probably the Benoit feud, early 2000. But still, in that moment, it's just like, they will give WCW guys chances here. And I think, in their heart of hearts, I think that pushed a lot of people who would then jump over the next 6-8 months closer to the door.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's an all-timer segment, and something that, like, always, one of the most iconic visuals from that whole era of wrestling is Jericho doing the pose.
Yeah. Which,
if you read the book,
he stole from Michael Jackson.
But also wasn't planning to do it until he, like, basically was there.
Yeah.
He walked up and he's just like, it would look cool if I did this. As he says, he kind of did it wrong. But it became the thing. Like, it is when the lights come up and he's doing the pose, like, it is genuinely one of the coolest visuals you'll ever see.
Yeah, it's a superstar entrance. It's literally, you're all looking at me, I'm not looking at you.
Yeah. Right. That is by far the most important part of the show. So I think we can rattle through most of the rest of it now.
Yes.
Maybe the second funniest thing on the whole show was Bob Holly.
Big shot, Bob Holly.
The big shot. And trying to get the big shot over. It's so funny because he does the same line delivery 3 times identically.
Into
one
different
before
rooms.
The break, one after the break. He does this 3 times. He kicks a door open and he says, "Have you seen the big show? Tell him the big shot's looking for him." And he delivers it the same way. Exactly.
So you
couldn't trust him to do more than one line.
We have the big shot, Bob Holly.
Yes.
We have big nasty big show, Paul White.
Yeah.
Have you any other bigs?
Big Boss Man.
Big Boss Man.
Yeah.
The Big Bopper.
Big Booger Red.
Big Evil.
Big Evil. God. Non-title hardcore match up next. The Big Boss Man versus the Road Dogg. The Big Road Dogg. Match is absolute dog shit for a minute. And Boss Man puts him through a table. Speaking of dogs, Al Snow comes out. And in a thing that I'm sure he got a receipt for backstage, he hits Boss Man so hard with a dog carrier.
He breaks the dog carrier.
The dog carrier shatters over his head. He was definitely meant to pull that shot, and he didn't.
That's Netflix, Al Snow.
God, I do wonder if somebody's going to go to the TRL tier to get us to watch the OVW documentary, because it will just make me mad. Every GIF I've seen of it, it's just going to make me so mad.
I saw it came up on my TV the other day, and I was like, oh, God, I can't make myself watch that.
Like, I'll tell you what, Al Snow's a much better worker than I thought he was, because he managed to work an entire Netflix production crew into thinking that he had some sort of important role in the future of wrestling. Anyway, singles match, Big Show versus The Rock. Absolutely nothing happens in this match, and then the big shot comes out. He gets a headbutt from Big Show.
The Rock and the Big Show are in the ring, and Bob Holly interrupts.
Yeah. I'd love the reverse shot of The Rock looking fucking disgusted to see the Big Shot out here. So gets a headbutt from the Big Show. Rock low blows him. DDTs him into position for the People's Elbow.
Obviously didn't fancy doing the spine buster.
No. But as he's going to do it, and this is something you would forget because you all think of the segment where he debuts, but you forget that Jericho very briefly interferes in this match. So Jericho interviews, and then William Gunn comes in with his itchy arse and hits the worst jackhammer you've ever seen, which is identified as a jackhammer by Jim Ross. And then, scratches his hole on the way out.
Do you remember that Billy Gunn was trying to get over the jackhammer?
Billy Gunn had an itchy hole?
Yeah, well.
No, I had forgotten until just now that he was a guy who hit the jackhammer.
He's had more finishes than Chris Jericho.
Is it a thing? Is it like their version of WCW giving the stunner to Disco to devalue the stunner?
I should hope not, considering they fucking just had Billy Gunn win King of the Ring.
Yeah, but it's only a couple of years later where Edge cuts that incredible promo where he says, "I promise not to Billy Gunn this opportunity as King of the Ring."
Billy Gunn, who's still in the company at the time.
Billy Gunn, who 1 year or two, is it by King of the Ring 2000 or is it's 2001? In 2001, during King of the Ring, the winner 2 years previously is in WWF New York during the King of the Ring finals.
Mm-hmm.
The main event is here. The WWF World Heavyweight Title #1 contendership triple threat match with Shawn Michaels as special guest referee and Jesse Ventura on commentary. You couldn't get more bells and whistles if you tried. Triple H versus Chyna versus The Undertaker with Paul Bearer. Shawn Michaels, what a worker, coming out in the Shawn Michaels Wrestling Academy t-shirt and pointing repeatedly at the phone number.
I'd like to believe a young Spanky was watching Raw that night.
A young American dragon said, "I want me some of this. Look how tight those shorts are. I wonder if I can get a pair of those."
You think you could get Brian Danielson to talk about those tight shorts and what they do for sperm count in 2023?
The smuggled banana shorts.
Loves.
Well, I'll tell you what, for a man who loves talking about flaccid penises, you could see the level of flaccidity of Shawn Michaels throughout this.
I was going to say, we get more all-timer great music as The Undertaker comes out to Dark Side.
Oh, fantastic. The best version of his music.
Mm-hmm.
Sean, during his entrance, because it's of course 1999, decides it'd be really funny if he grinded on China very quickly. She shoots him a look that I imagine was not a worked look of I will fuck you up.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, sorry. China and Triple H get in each other's faces during Taker's entrance. Taker immediately shoves her over and she stays on the floor shocked. So this is the thing. This is the real problem I have, and I guess this is looking back with 2023 eyes. Like, realistically, in 1999, the people that were in WWF were not going to book this match any differently.
No.
China was the damsel in distress during this. One move would happen to her and she would be out of the match for minutes.
Yeah.
So she got shoved over and she was frozen in place on ground for nearly a minute. She gets back up. She gets up in Taker's face. He goozles her, lifts her up. She kind of pokes him in the eye, but she tries to dive off the top rope. Then he throws a single punch and it takes her out of almost
She takes
the
a great
entire
bump,
match.
though. Yeah, great.
She does take a great bump. Yeah, she goes for it.
I did. I was just going to say, I did like on commentary around this time. Jesse can't help but be a heel and speculate that Austin was drunk and fell down the stairs.
Yeah.
He just can't help himself. He has to be a heel.
Can't help himself. And you know what? Jerry's encouraging it as well.
I actually had to look up after Jesse was like, "Oh, I remember we had that match in Memphis." I looked up; they did.
Yeah. It felt like a thing Jesse was bringing up to try and pop Jerry.
Yeah, he did.
It succeeded
Because he brought up, what was it, the San Diego chicken or something?
Yeah. Taker goes for a chokeslam after a lot of brawling outside. Low blow from China. They then double team Taker. I obviously was lost in thought because, like, how was Sean allowed on national TV in those shorts? Like, that's obscene. That's more obscene than when he got his arse out that time.
Vince loved seeing Sean in tight shorts. What do you want me to tell you?
Yeah, the smuggled banana shorts, eh? Because that was not even the last time they would appear.
No, Judgment Day.
Yeah, you had to pay on pay-per-view for those shorts to come back for an hour. Fucking hell. Jesse completely forgot the stip of the match and had to be reminded as well. He forgot this was for the number one contendership. He was talking about it being Triple H and Austin. They were like, "Oh, that no, not necessarily."
What did you think of Undertaker's very gentle chokeslam on China?
Yeah, it was I really don't want to. It was like the choke nap on Hogan.
I was just going to say, we've talked about previously about the choke nap where Big Nasty did to Hogan, where he very gently placed him down.
He picked her up and he laid her down to sleep.
And the crowd booed because they were like, "Oh, we want to see this woman murdered." Apparently,
yeah, put her through the ring. These bloodthirsty 1999 fans,
Chicagoans.
Triple H hits the knee, and like, God, you forget how bad Taker used to be. Like, and still, like, to be fair, like, even in his workhorse era, he was pulling it out for one match a year. Like, he was a giraffe on roller skates an awful lot. And Triple H hits his rising knee, and he stumbles back 10 feet across the ring into the ropes and just goes on his arse, and it looked awful. So then he tries to pin China, but Taker breaks it. We cut backstage, and Austin is back, just shoves a random crew member off a chair and takes it. China gets knocked off the apron. Triple H is out on the floor, and as Taker is threatening Sean inside the ring, Austin walks out, absolutely decapitated Triple H with a chair shot.
I mean, I've seen some chair shots in my time. He hits him flush in the face. And what gets me is the fucking sound. He hit him flush in the face.
He was not aiming for Triple H's head. He was aiming for a spot 2 feet behind Triple H's head. And he went through Triple H's head to get to it.
Planted him.
He hit him so hard and so fast that Triple H tried to get his hands up.
I don't think he did.
Get them up quick enough. He gets his hands about halfway up, and the chair is already embedded in his face.
Oh my god! What a fucking chair shot! And then he puts China on top to get the pin.
It was China on top to get the pin, but at that point, like, everybody's ears are still ringing from the chair shot.
Like, everyone remembers the one to The Rock where he walked, the Foley win. That was a great chair shot as well. But my God, this one was fucking incredible.
I think it was because of the way the camera swings. You're not expecting it. And because his hands are starting to go up, you're like, oh, he'll get there. No. Like, I
But it was the sound.
Yeah, it was the sound, and it was like, if you had reversed the camera angle, you would see a sweaty face print exactly in Triple H's
in the chair.
It's like the fucking Shroud of Turin.
Oh my God.
China wins and is, for now, the number one contender at SummerSlam, and we go off the air with The Undertaker fucking fuming about it.
Should we talk about how next week the number one contendership changes? I think it's 3 times.
Yes.
So Foley returns in the first segment, gets a match with China. He wins the number one contendership.
Foley, who, by the way, has only been out for maybe 2 months with, like, knee surgery.
Yeah, we talked about it the last time that he comes back really quickly because they needed somebody.
Yeah, I read it in the Observer and you were like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, so like he comes back next week, wins the number one contendership, then they do another triple threat match with him, China and Triple H. And I think there's a fuck finish where Triple H wins, and then they somehow get back to it being a triple threat match by the end of the show.
Just so fucking convoluted, mate. But anyway, that was Raw.
Really good show.
We go straight into Nitro, or do you want to give a winner and loser for that?
We'll come back to it. Straight into Nitro.
Right, we'll go into Nitro now. This is Nitro 203 from Boise, Idaho. Also, the 9th of August, 1999, getting, as we discussed earlier, a 3.1 rating. We had a dark match on this show, Lee. Because we are mere weeks away from his television debut. They are getting him ready for television. The Disco Inferno wrestled Berlin.
Oh, God.
In the dark match. I'm sure that was an absolute classic to behold. The Dancing Fools back together in a different guise.
So that's 2 tag teams that imploded on this night.
I guess so, yeah. We get a video package to open Nitro. Mona begging for her job back on the previous week to no avail. She low blows Randy Savage, who then gets killed by Rodman. Steiner lures Goldberg into a trap backstage with Sid. Hudson gets murdered. Hogan placed gently through a table. All the stuff that we kind of talked about on the last episode of Thunder, with the exception of the Mona stuff we hadn't heard about. Tony and Brain talking. Huge and actually authentic Goldberg chants, not once being piped in. They also reveal, Lee, cross this one off your bingo card for the month, the power in WCW has changed yet again. As Sting has surrendered control of the company. A new president will be named imminently. J.J. Dillon is in charge on an interim basis, and Dusty Rhodes has been appointed the head of the championship committee, which in that respect kind of reflects what we talked about the other week with Dusty is now back in a prominent role booking with Nash not out of the picture, but very much more on the periphery than he had been.
Yeah, because remember, Dusty had that weird interview a couple of weeks ago where he's like begging Flair for a job.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's like he's got his job because WCW has the power back.
Yes. Heenan, and not for the first time on this hour for a commentator to say it, but Heenan flat out says, we need Dusty to turn this company around.
Mm-hmm.
So we have now reached the era where people are just openly talking about how terrible WCW is.
Yeah, how
the
first part of 1999 was absolute shit.
Yeah. They're still kind of doing it under the guise of in storyline. It's so you could kind of pass it off as because Flair was in charge, everything sucked. But that's not how most people are reading it.
Remember when the McMahons came out and went, "Oh, Baron Corbin ruined our show." That's what it was.
Yes.
Except 1999 WCW had not in fact signed the Young Bucks like WWF thought they had.
Where are we next?
Match number 1.
Match number 1. Quite the trio as Norman Smiley, Lash LaRue, the Raging Cajun, and Prince Ikea, the Flat Pack Sovereign, take on the Deadpool, El Vampiro, Shaggy 2 Dope, and Violent J.
Who are never
Yes.
referred to by name, we should say.
No, they have, God, what's the name of that? There's like the ICP character.
Jack Jekyll, is it?
Jack Jekyll, yeah, is on the back of both their jerseys, and Brain legitimately thinks Violent J's name is Jack Jekyll. Yes, this is the in-ring debut of the Insane Clown Posse on our podcast, and it is nowhere near the last time we will see them wrestle. Heenan, during the entrance, puts over the Smiley Scoop Slam big time. Love you, Brain, for that. And this is the thing, like, Heenan isn't a guy who, especially at this stage, is willingly bestowing compliments on people he doesn't like. So it's very interesting to me that he looks at a very green as grass Lash LaRue and puts him over big, saying this kid's going to make it to the big time.
Implying that WCW is in fact not the big time.
Yeah. This guy's going to get a job somewhere better. Lash and Vamp start off with dueling chops, and Tony immediately, like, it's like he was waiting for the bell ring to just start talking about Hogan.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much the tenor of the whole show, is they pretty much talk about Hogan and Nash for 3 hours. Mickey J completely misses a tag to IKEA and tries to get rid of him out of the ring, even though he did legally tag in. Let's pull this Band-Aid off very quickly, Lee. I don't know if you're going to agree with me on this. Well, you agree with me on the first part, I think. You'd have to. The Insane Clown Posse suck. But they're great.
As a musical act, yes. As wrestlers, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do they bring something
me there.
Do they bring something to the show? Yes.
Yes. Well, this is it. Like, I would much sooner watch an ICP shit the bed in a match that's really over because it's ICP, rather than like half these guys that are more talented but WCW will never do anything with.
This match was not good. First of all,
no.
IKEA was in this match for the majority of it, and it was fucking horrendous.
Yeah. You have Norman Smiley, who I saw the teams and I was like, right, this match is going to be 99% Vampiro and Norman Smiley.
Yeah.
And everyone else will be allowed in very limited quantities.
Nope.
And that's not how it was. It was mostly ICP wrestling IKEA and Lash LaRue.
Which is what you do in this circumstance. You put the four greens people in there.
Yeah.
This match fucking was dog shit.
Yeah.
But I was captivated by it because there's just something about the ICP.
They are terrible wrestlers. The Deadpool are heels, but they are some of the biggest baby faces on this show in terms of crowd reaction.
Well, I mean, it's the thing, like, Juggalos do go, like, they're renowned for following the ICP to whatever they're doing.
And it's like probably like this period is the most mainstream ICP are in terms of popularity. You know what I mean? Like, they have more of a recognition amongst people who aren't Juggalos than they
like by 2001, 2002, the last time I remember them being referenced was, remember Eminem would take shots at them on his albums?
Yes. Yeah.
Like, that's the last time I remember them being kind of relevant.
Shaggy 2 Dope gets in at one point, and as he throws a punch, his pants fall down.
Yes.
And normally with a clown, you think that's a stage spot, like, because that is pretty good clown bit. But no, this man just had ill-fitting trousers and was a terrible wrestler.
Even considered that.
Yeah. Look, I'll tell you, I'll say it right now, Lee. I'll put this down. If that was a planned spot, he should have won the Thez Award that year.
All I can hear, as he throws the punch, just like, whoop.
It's like, you know, the Abe Sissy bit. It's like, Abe, could you go 5 seconds without embarrassing yourself? And the suspenders explode and his pants fall down. How long was that?
I really wish that was on purpose now.
But the thing was, I say with 100% confidence, it wasn't. He just had baggy pants and he was a shit wrestler. Are you confident that 10 times out of 10, you could tell me which one's Shaggy 2 Dope and which one's Violent J.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good. I wonder if that, like, is it just that I'm so wrestling brained I could easily tell the difference because I watched their whole WCW run.
Yeah, Violent J is the chunky one.
Yes. Nowadays, harder to tell.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Shaggy 2 Dope caught up.
Okay.
Let's just say that. The calories in Fago are gonna tell after a while. That's all I'm gonna say. Again, we're very much open to being sent a care package of Fago if Fago is still made.
I really hope it's not.
You would have to try it if it's still got sugar in it because I can't drink it. But I'm volunteering you for that.
Thanks.
Anytime, buddy.
Do you think any juggalos listen to us?
I don't know. Shout us out. Juggalos are welcome here. I don't know if we'd be welcome at the gathering of the Juggalos.
No.
But the Juggalos are definitely welcome here. I find it a very interesting subculture.
I wonder could I get booked in Juggalo Championship Wrestling?
They're unbelievably popular.
Yeah.
Like I think for people who haven't kept up with the Juggalos, it would shock you how popular they still are.
Like JCW still does big shows.
It's amongst all the same people that always liked them. But it's still quite a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we will go on many ICP-related tangents over the next couple of years on this show. The Norman Smiley hot tag got a huge pop.
It did. What
slams everyone.
What did you think of the tight shot on the Big Wiggle?
Yeah. Well, they need to be past the watershed to show the whole thing.
Lest the American public see his gyrating hips.
Now, I'll tell you what would have been fucking obscene is him coming out doing that in the Shawn Michaels shorts.
Oh, good lord. Fucking hell, Dave.
I picture actually him doing the big wiggle and it causing Shaggy 2 Dope's pants to fall down again. Now, if I'm booking this company, if they brought me in instead of Vince Russo, I am contriving weekly spots where something causes his pants to fall down after this match. Anyway.
Just in the background of shots backstage, just his pants are falling down.
Yeah, Positively Canyon would be in the background of shots. Canyon
cut,
people about a year from now. But it's just like in scenes where someone's doing like a serious promo or something, like you just see Shaggy 2 Dope but like catering, just talking to someone really casually and it's just his pants fall.
As Road Dogg pushed through a door.
I feel like, yeah. With his tapes. I feel like I'm turning this into, Patrick Stewart in Extras. Where he's just like, have you ever seen
that? No, I'm not an Extras guy, no.
So Patrick Stewart does this great bit where he's like, because the whole bit is actors play themselves, but it's like weirdo versions of themselves. And Patrick Stewart is like, I've had this idea for a movie where I play my character from the X-Men, Professor Xavier, and I see an attractive woman walking down the street, and I wonder what she'd look like with no clothes on, and then all her clothes fall off. And she scrambles and she gets them back on very quickly, but by then I've seen everything. And then, he describes another scenario where the exact same thing happens and he does but by then I've seen everything. And I feel like I just turned into that there where a very serious segment is going on. And then Shaggy 2 Dope's pants fall down. And he gets them back on very quickly. But by then I've seen everything.
Which is funny because you were complaining earlier on about seeing so much of Billy Gunn's ass.
Yeah. And I'm saying we haven't seen enough of Shaggy 2 Dopes.
Oh my god, who'd have thought on the first ICP match we ever fucking review it turn into this?
It's such a good spot.
And we thought Raven was gone. And we haven't even mentioned him yet.
We haven't even talked about Raven was there. And he'd painted an ank on his face.
Yeah.
Because, he just didn't give a shit.
Yeah, the hair was wild. He's
I don't know if it was part of his gimmick or he was just at a goth rave the previous night and he cared so little about his employment he just didn't wash anymore.
Yeah, looks rough.
Fuck.
I mean,
Sorry.
Deadpool
Oh
win.
my god. Deadpool do win via the big boy moonsault. And I feel like it came up because somebody posted the gif of Vader doing the over the ropes moonsault. That the big boy moonsault has come back into vogue on Twitter this week.
Oh.
And I would like to say Violent J hits a pretty good big boy moonsault. Dog shit wrestler, decent moonsault. Even though this match was maybe 2.5, 3 minutes long and he wasn't in it for very long, Violent J is completely blown up.
Still better than IK though.
Yeah. But also, much better face paint than Sting because it hasn't really started to melt
what the fuck?
at all.
What do they use on their face?
Certainly not. Like, I don't know what Sting uses. I like that. I think that's the more important question because even now in 2023, it runs off him in like 30 seconds.
Yeah, but we all know it's Steve Stinger.
Yeah, this is true.
We don't know what Shaggy, Two Dope, and Violent J look like.
I genuinely don't. I think it would be really disturbing to me to see them without the face paint.
Why we spend so much
Anyway.
time? Anyway, we're spending way too much time on ICP here.
Raven all but rolls his eyes, by the way, when this match is over. It's like the bell rings and it cuts to him in the corner. He's like, fuck's sake. He's so miserable. It's great. I love it. You can just hear him be like, ah. We get WCW collectors covers of TV Guide this week. You can get Nash, Sting, Savage, or Kimberly. And knowing 1999 wrestling fans, I'll bet my entire house on which one of those sold out. But I digress, as Taz would say. Nitro Girls, number 1. Something that's really occurred to me 10 Nitros in. It's so funny that they've had the Nitro Girls for so many years doing... Every hour of Nitro, they do a song, and they still haven't bought the rights to more than about 3 songs for them to do.
Or ask DJ Rand to create some new ones.
Because even... Is this one? I can't remember which one it is. Like, where I'm like, oh, that's just the music they end up using for... Is it Miss Hancock comes out to one of them? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't remember if it was her or Major Guns at first. One of the two of them came out to one of the Nitro Girls team, but I think it is Miss Hancock.
I think it's Miss Hancock. I'm pretty sure it's Miss Hancock.
Because, yeah, she comes out and she does her dance. So I think it was to that, yeah. But, yeah, it's just like, oh, we've had them for years. And I'm sure the girls are fucking sick to death of the 3 songs at this stage as well. And they're just like, nah, fuck it.
They have to rehearse dances and all to those songs.
Yeah. Every single week. The Revolution are backstage haranguing Dusty Rhodes, our head of the championship committee, asking them if there's ever going to be change. Dusty says it's a new regime. They are going to get their opportunity, but if you don't take that opportunity, that's on you. Flair and Tori walk by. Tori in her hometown tonight, by the way.
Oh.
That's because I only know that because that's where I learned that there is a place on this earth called Boise.
That you've never heard of Boise before?
Never heard of Boise until she started when she was in WWE and started getting introduced from Boise. It's one of those moments where, like, you know, the way US wrestling fans obviously don't have this as much, but for European wrestling fans, it's definitely true that we know way more US geography than we should purely because of professional wrestling.
Yeah, my 10-year-old knows way too much American geography because of wrestling.
There is not one chance on this earth that I would know there is a place called Battle Creek, Michigan.
What about Bombay, Michigan?
Yeah. Yeah, Bombay, Michigan. I wouldn't know there's a place called Parts Unknown either.
Right next to Truth or Consequences?
Yeah, Truth or Consequences, yeah. There's so much of US geography, both real and fake, that I know now. That's only useful in pub quiz type scenarios.
Oh yeah, like if an American state question comes up, it's like, the wrestling fan knows.
In what city is this arena as well is one that I'm really good at
Well, see,
because of wrestling.
I'm lost at that shit now because they all change names so often.
Yeah. You don't get stuff like the Izod Center anymore.
No.
Yeah.
Like
the
Allstate Arena in Chicago, that's the Rosemont, isn't it?
Rosemont Horizon.
Yeah.
Is it?
I think so.
So where are we now? I completely lost my place.
Match number 2.
Oh yeah, so no, it's Flair and Tori are walking by talking
yeah.
shit, and Benoit's just like fuck you and puts him in a crossface.
Yeah.
And Dusty says, right, okay, you're talking shit. It's Benoit versus David Flair for the US title tonight. Our long national nightmare may be about to end, Lee. Next match, which I alerted you about, because I told you that the ICP wrestled in this show, and you were like, oh, brilliant. And you meant it seriously, like you weren't being sarcastic. I said, well, don't get too excited, because the second match is the Public Enemy versus the West Texas Rednecks.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. I'm just going to give you another... Actually, no. Before we get to the match. Something I had completely forgotten about. By the way, Tony and Brain start this segment by burying WCW again and talking about how bad WCW has been. I had forgotten that there was a second West Texas Redneck single.
Yeah, I actually forgot that as well.
Good Old Boys. And this was a bop. But Curt Hennig clearly hadn't learned the lyrics to this one because he only sings the chorus to this during their entrance. But I'm going to stand back because I think my policy going forward now, Lee, is when the Public Enemy are on TV, you get the office. I only have one thing that I want to mention during this match, and I will mention it once you're done. So I got to take a big sip of Pepsi for the working man, and you tell us about this Matt fucking classic.
Well, I mean, I don't have a ton to say about the match because, I mean, I've been over this 100 times. The Public Enemy are a fucking embarrassment, even by 1999 standards. They have no place on television. Johnny Grunge in particular, like, how that man ever got a contract. He is fucking out of shape, which is fine if you're a big boy wrestler. He's not.
Yeah. And also, it was much finer. Like, and now maybe it's rose-colored glasses, but you definitely have watched a good bit of ECW as well. There was a time where Flyboy Rocco Rock was all right.
Yeah.
Wasn't there? And he was definitely like, you can be the useless big guy wrestler if you're with a guy who can actually keep the match together.
Like, Rocco Rock was the worker of the group. And even in this one, like, he does okay in there with Hennig.
Yeah,
but
he's definitely washed.
Oh, yeah, he's done. Like, finished at this point. I was only thinking, it's so funny that in the mid-2000s, one of the biggest independent tournaments was named after one of these guys. Because by this point, they are just fucking... Oh, it's just... I hate seeing them on TV. I wish they'd just go away. More importantly, I want to bring up the fact that Barry Windham is back in wrestling tights and wrestling trunks and boots.
Yeah,
gone are the camo shorts.
How did you feel about that?
I love
that he lost his little Daisy Dukes.
I love Barry Windham. He's great.
Yeah.
Like, look, come here. We've mentioned it. Hennig and Windham are absolutely washed by this point. But my God, they're still streets ahead of the Public Enemy.
And they're also like, they've got that quality of like the old people in the nursing home who like start dating. It's like, they're both done for, but it's nice that they found each other, isn't it?
But isn't it a real indictment of Duncombe Jr. and the other Windham that the two washed guys are still getting picked ahead of them for matches on Nitro?
Mm-hmm. Can I also... so the two spots I want to mention in this match are the Public Enemy nearly murdered Curt Hennig on live television with a flapjack. Like, how you can fuck up a double flapjack.
They both let go of him.
Yeah. I think Curt Hennig thought it was going to be a back
body drop. He did.
And they held on to him for too long.
And then let go.
And then let go of him. And he just ends up in a fucking heap.
Oh.
And then right before the finish... Grunge, and you know how much I love this very basic wrestling move, so it aggravates me no end that this happened, and I can say with some confidence as an expert in the field, Johnny Grunge hits Barry Windham with the single worst neckbreaker I have seen in a long time. You know a neckbreaker is bad when the man you're doing the neckbreaker to lands on top of you, the person executing the move. And that is what happens here.
Mm-hmm.
Dog shit.
Yeah.
Dog shit match. Miserable experience.
The Rednecks win.
Yes, the Rednecks win. Thank God, by the way, because I think I probably would have pitched the laptop out the window if Public Enemy got a win here. Not that, like, the Rednecks are this great protected act, but again, there's very few acts in this company more transparently washed and at the bottom of the card. Like, I'm pretty sure that these guys would already be not on TV again had they been two of the only people not substantially injured in that junkyard match.
Mm-hmm.
They would have been pushed off TV if, like, Finlay wasn't on a surgeon's table around now and a bunch of other people were just creased.
I think it's around about now that they start kind of going with the Rednecks as more of a face act. They start leaning into the fact that the WCW fans are obviously country music fans.
Yeah. Next match. Oh, by the way, the camera completely missed Duncombe not knocking out Grunge with the cowbell.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
At the end of the match. Yeah. Next match is Mona versus Little Genie. I was just like, where the hell are they digging up these opponents from on the indies? Like, it's so clear. Like, they had planned this long Mona Medusa program, and now Medusa's hurt, and they have no idea what to do because they don't have a women's division.
Was it Jerry Flynn's music that Little Genie came out to?
Oh, it might have been, yeah. Well, this is Genie's first WCW match. She wrestles 3 more times
all against Mona
for WCW. All of them are in 1999. All of them are house shows. And all of them are against Mona. But unlike the usual model of you do the house show match first to build to doing a solid match on TV, they did the TV match first and then do a bunch of house show matches.
Makes sense.
This is also one of only 2 matches really on this show where you can accuse actual wrestling of happening. Like, Mona, this is why, like, I guess she was so ahead of her time for her generation. Like, she's still green as grass, but she actually tries to wrestle in her matches.
Does, yeah.
And it's not what people necessarily... Like, I was like, no, do you know what? I'm actually going to be fairer to the 1999 crowds than most people are. Like, usual, the way 1999 crowds treat women is, you know, something for the dads kind of stuff. And I was about to say, because it's definitely much the case in WWF, that they don't want to see women actually wrestle, except China, who they only want to see wrestle men. That said, we have now watched 2 wrestling matches that Mona has had, and the crowds are into it.
Yeah, they were.
Now, like, not into it on the level, like, I'm not saying that she's, like, you know, put the strap on her or, you know, anything like that. But, like, they're surprisingly into
they gave
Mona
it a chance.
doing actual wrestles. And yes, they gave it a chance. Which just goes to show, like, you can't tell me with a straight face, because a lot of these bookers from the time, like the Russos and stuff like that, the world.
Oh, nobody cared.
Oh, they didn't want to see these skirts wrestle and stuff like that. It's because you and people like you never gave them a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they wouldn't have been, again, Mona was, like, way ahead. Like, there's maybe only, I'm thinking between both companies, like, Ivory could hold a match together. We're still a couple of years away from Lita a year or so away from Lita in WWF. Jackie could hold a half decent match together, and that's about it. But again, if you had been serious about women earlier than this, who knows? A lot of them could have been a lot better. In WWF, none of them ever got better because none of them ever had proper matches, got proper reps, were trained properly.
Yeah, I mean,
they were trained just enough to not hurt themselves, and even then, that wasn't fully successful.
We just said about the timing of matches went up significantly in 2000 for the men's, but like up until like the mid 2000s, the women were getting literally 3 minutes.
It was like, you know, people famously talk about that Trish and Lita main event on Raw. But that was also the first time they'd main evented Raw. It was also the fucking last time women main evented Raw for a decade plus after. So like, I'm not giving them their flowers for giving like a tokenistic and whatever about now, where you could say there wasn't a lot of top tier women's talent, but like WWF burned through an era where they had people like Victoria, Jazz under contract, and we're still doing fucking gravy bowl matches most of the time with women. And yeah, it was, I often wonder how, because I've seen a couple of the matches Trish has had on this run, like the cage match and stuff like that, and I'm just like, as good as she was for her time, I really wonder how good she could have been if she came around now. That she managed to get as good as she did for the time she was in. If she was 21 now.
Yeah, like she had no vets to work with. She just, it was her, Victoria, and Molly basically raising each other up.
And she was already in the ring like nearly 2 years when Victoria came in.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like Victoria, that hardcore match with Victoria is 2002 Survivor Series. You know what I mean? And she'd already been in the ring from like mid 2000s. She was starting to wrestle on like semi regularly.
Yeah.
And then was like regular through 2001 basically, but still doing bra and panties matches most of the time. Like I often wonder, because of how quickly she took to wrestling, if she had a proper division around her and more than Fit Finlay championing the women through the back half of
give
her
them
run.
a time, give them a chance.
Like what was her ceiling? You know,
you'll never know.
Same with Molly as well. Like Molly, probably at the time even harder for her, because like I guess there's at least more women in WWF who were having quote unquote matches, whereas like the division was 2 women in WCW at this time, and one of them got hurt.
Yeah.
But anyway, this match was like for somebody who'd never been on TV before versus somebody who's green. It's pretty solid.
I thought it was fine. I thought it was a pretty good match. Like,
and Mona won with an Indian Deathlock pin.
Yeah, really cool looking.
Yeah. And then Brandy Alexander ran in to try and get a sneak attack and gets laid out too. It's like it really is like, God, what? Oh, I wish they.
It's a what could have been situation.
Yeah, it is. Hogan and Nash video package. And then speaking of what could have been, a Nick Hogan cameo is not what I was expecting on my Nitro.
It's not often that Hulk Hogan is the least problematic Hogan on the show.
Not only that, but it was Nick Hogan in an Ash Ketchum cap.
Oh, was it? Okay, I didn't even notice.
Yes, is the iconic Ash Ketchum hat. He says, and this was, you want to talk about interesting camera work? This moment was very interesting, where like you don't get the way they did this, where like they follow Nick into the dressing room and he says, "Dad, you're late for an interview," and then it follows with no like music or anything like that. It follows Hogan kind of getting up. He was doing press ups. He gets his belt. He runs out, runs down a corridor, and he's waiting at the curtain. It's weird that there was 2 curtain shots
in the one night
on shows that were going on at the same time. So as he's waiting in this incredibly dark, like clearly because you would see that it was actually the curtain to the side of the stage, so they obviously didn't want to show Gorilla here, so they filmed it like slightly further down. So it's incredibly dark, this shot, and sorry. One of the things for context for later is like, Nick says, "You're not even wearing the gear I brought you," and Hogan opens the bag and sees that the red and yellow tights are in there, and he thinks about it for a second.
Yeah, I wish they hadn't done that to these. I wish they had to just left that at Nick on, "Oh, you're not wearing the stuff I packed," which is what he says, and just left it at that, and Hogan going, "Oh, I haven't got time right now, I'll come back in a minute."
I know this is an inopportune time to bring it up, but the Nick Hogan thing and the gear has just reminded me. Did you watch Dynamite last night?
I did.
And MJF doing the Brett Mean Joe Green bit with the kid. 5 stars.
Oh, phenomenal.
As soon as that shot opened, I was there by myself, like I was Leo DiCaprio, you know, that the meme of him. Oh, pointing. See, I'm adopted. It's such a great swerve.
Yeah,
that's the kind of comedy MJF does that doesn't drive me crazy.
Yeah.
The fucking going to the ball pit and assassinating children, this mid-card comedy shtick I don't like, but that, great shit. Great shit.
Just the whole thing. That's MJF. And then the footsteps. Oh, it's brilliant.
So he gets sneak attacked from the shadows by Nash, Rick, and Sid. They drag him out through the entranceway, roll him in the ring. Hogan and Sting out to stop the jackknife. The crowd goes Goldberg and Sting.
They fucking sprint him.
Yes. Out to stop the jackknife. The crowd goes fucking mental, by the way. Hogan said he's sick of those three. Something that WCW keeps doing is they can't figure out ways into steps, so they just fucking do it, abandoning all logic. So completely unprompted, he's the champion. The match is already made. It's not like he needs to put something on the line to convince Nash to accept. He just goes, fuck it, I'll put my career on the line.
Yeah, they're so fucking bad at this shit.
Yeah. And he goes, and that's what I wrote. He put his career on the line for a title and a match that he already has.
Yeah.
But he goes, what about a 6-man tonight? So Nash accepts. Sting says, if we win tonight, Nash has to put his career on the line at Road Wild. I was like, but he's no reason to. Now he's in a position where he can win the title and take Hogan's career because Hogan's offered it up, and he doesn't have to put anything on the table. He's minted. Goldberg says that Steiner has nothing to put on the line, so he better bring his ass to Sturgis. And I laughed because I was like, you have nothing to put on the line. Rick Steiner is the television champion.
That's
and like clearly, yeah, that's it. Goldberg is just like, I don't want that. Don't want that. Fair enough, I guess. Nash, again, completely unprompted. No reason to do it, but he accepts the career stip. Hogan says Sting and Goldberg will make sure there's no interference. He keeps calling them his best friends.
Yes.
Like, fucking... You talk about, like, what is it they keep calling Jericho, the people on Twitter? Oh, the clout vampire. There has never been a bigger clout vampire than Hogan.
Oh, hang on. Are people shitting on Jericho again?
Oh, no, not recently. Okay. Just in general, like, that's the thing people level at him. Although, extremely funny that he just fucking beat Sammy Guevara last night.
Oh, come here.
So good.
Did you not see
his job? He gets beaten like a drum in all of his feuds. He's like, no, I'm not putting that cunt over.
Did you not think, I'm sure you had the same thoughts as decided, as soon as Excalibur...
Poor Takeshita.
No.
That was my main thought.
As soon as Excalibur brought up the WrestleMania 19 gear for Sammy, I knew where it was going.
Yeah. You had to see it coming. It's funny because like you would have preferred they do like the actual WrestleMania 19 stuff that was cool, which was Jericho and Shawn mimicking each other's moves throughout the match. But like Jericho can't physically do.
They tried
anything
to
that
do
Sammy
that
does. Really,
night.
yes.
Sammy did the go breaker.
Yeah. Oh, that's the other thing is like he beat Sammy with his tertiary finisher as well. Not the walls, not the Judas effect. Fucking code breaker, which is a transition move nowadays. Funny stuff. Anyway, Nash accepts. There'll be no interference, which guarantees interference, by the way. Hot angle, but good goddamn was all that very badly thought out. Everybody was pumped. Everybody, I think, on the microphone, they delivered what they had to deliver very well. But on a level of planning out how to get to the steps, just not there.
Yeah, there was better ways to get to the career versus career title match. But anyway, it is what it is. We're on to our next title match.
Yes, and this is Gormless Idiot David Flair defending his United States Heavyweight title against Chris Benoit. They start this match by replaying the entire segment that we just saw half an hour ago play out backstage.
I don't often bring this up, but good Lord, Tori Wilson.
She was doing quite well this evening.
Jesus Christ. I loved Bobby Heenan's bit of talking about that hat.
Yeah. Let's just say
it was a great hat.
Tori Wilson was very important for a very young Dave.
Yeah.
In terms of, hey, maybe girls aren't gross and covered in cooties. Maybe they're pretty cool.
Speaking of pretty cool, we get Nick Patrick coming out.
Yeah, what I think cool.
Of course you think Nick Patrick.
Anyway, can I just say, but like Nick Patrick does come out, but right before that, during his entrance, David Flair, I don't think he's ever looked worse in terms of looking like he's about to cry, which he frequently does, but also actively looking blotchy.
Yeah, what the fuck was up with that?
It's like he got the poison ivy. Like, did Billy Gunn rub his arse on David Flair's face? I can't confirm nor deny.
There was something going on with like his general cheek area. He looked very like.
You could say that about. Should we call that? Is that the common thread between both shows? There was something going on in his general cheek area.
You're just going back to fucking Shaggy Two up again, aren't you? Yeah, it was very strange. Anyway, Nick Patrick comes out and kicks Little Nate out of the ring because obviously Ric Flair is no longer in power. He does not get to decide who referees David's matches.
Yeah, I get that they did this bit to do the live reaction to him being kicked out, but at the same time as well, like if this was a shoot, brother, I'm assuming Charles Robinson would be fired day one of the Sting regime.
Yes.
But anyway, Flair tries to bail straight away, but the Revolution come down. They're like, nah.
Welcome back.
Bring him out.
Yeah.
And I think it's at that point, I think the crowd don't fully buy into it until that. I think they assume because of what they've had for like the last few months that, look, David's going to find a way to weasel out of this, or there's going to be loads of interference and we're not going to get what he wanted. But there was that, like, as soon as they bring him back in, they're like, oh, he's actually going to get a fucking hiding here.
I actually, it was at that point I really noticed I loved Flair's look because he has that, I'm going to get my ass kicked here and there's literally nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, that resigned to defeat thing. They are hot to see the beatdown. Flair flops out and is surrounded like it's a lumberjack match, so he knows he had to get back in. Benoit fucking levels this cunt with a chop, and then a snap suplex that nearly snapped him clean in half.
Yeah, I think like the whole sequence of moves is like one chop which knocks him down, snap suplex, backbreaker, and then Tony starts talking about how he's an embarrassment to wrestling. And like it's embarrassing what's happened to the US title.
Yeah. What are we at next? So he starts paintbrushing him, beats him some more. The Triad try to interfere, but they can't get there. Diving headbutt and a new champion. And again, I suppose a mirror to what happens on Raw. We have a title change, but because angles have to happen, we can't drink it in really. So Paige tries to attack. He gets run off. Then Benoit challenges Paige to a no DQ match for the belt at Road Wild.
That should be good, right?
Should be good. I mean, those two were having bangers like when they were in the Ravenverse at the start of our podcast run. We then get a full replay of the Benoit win and another Nitro Girls segment. I would like you to run us through Mean Gene talking to Macho Man, please.
I don't know. We saw this on Thunder. He brings up Macho.
It's actually somehow an even less good version of what we got on Thunder.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't actually deliver on any of the things he's going to say he'll talk about.
He talked about more of the stuff that he was going to reveal on Nitro on Thunder previously. Mean Gene is like flabbergasted that Gorgeous George isn't winning again. Macho says no, won't have Gorgeous George until after he gets rid of Rodman. So Gene brings up, you said you were going to talk about your four things, and Macho then runs through. He said Nash brushed off one shoulder, Sid brushed off the other. Who was it? Hogan and Rodman. He brushes off his
dick,
genitals.
Yeah.
Yes,
no, his dick.
Yeah, his dick. Okay.
His schlong, if you will.
At this point, Gene is doing his best to keep this interview on track, but it's not working. The promo just kind of ends, and we don't actually find out who, one, the bodyguard is, two, who the bodyguard is that was also the Hummer driver, three, why Sid and Nash are friends, and what was the fourth one?
Fuck me if I know. The only apparent surprise that he delivers on here is he's going to beat up Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, it wasn't a good segment.
No, it was very bad. Tag team match as the British Empire, Chris Adams and Dave Taylor, take on Ed.
The British Empire or the British?
the British Empire.
Okay.
Take on Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio in his Department of Corrections jumpsuit to hide his enormous knee pads, even though this is the first time where several times during this match I've noticed him adjust said knee pads.
Yeah, he's still trying to hide the fact that he has no knees at this point.
Yeah.
Which is funny considering Dom would then do the prison gimmick.
Indeed. What did you think of Butlin's act, Dave Taylor and Chris Adams here?
I enjoyed it.
I bloody hate America.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun.
See this flag? It's the best flag. Fuck me.
Look, we popped for fucking Charlie Sterling, so
yeah,
we can't shit on it too much.
Crowd is absolutely great during this. They really wanted Ray straight away, and then when he did call in, huge pop. Adams hits a power slam and a backdrop. He misses a diving thing. Ray hits a springboard moonsault. Ray does a baseball slide, gets up, runs back at Chris Adams, who kicks his head into the third row with a super kick.
Awesome super kick. Sounded great as well.
It's a fantastic super kick. Ray rolls out, gets choked with the flag by terrific evil Brit Dave Taylor. Huge stomps and claps for the hot tag. This was like a raucous cheer for a hot tag. He gets cut off. Taylor goes to whip him into the corner. Ray takes out Adams, then Taylor. Hot tag to Eddie. Faces go crazy. Eddie does a pop-up. He pops up Ray into a dropkick on Taylor, which looked great. Hits the Bronco Buster on Adams. Top rope Frankensteiner into a frog splash for the win. I love basically their version of Power and Glory.
Yeah. And I love Eddie went fucking 3/4 of the way across the ring. Did that frog splash. Great.
Then the Deadpool come out to attack the faces, and then Kidman comes in to even the odds. Good guys clear the ring. We double dip with Kidman because he's out for the next match. It's Kidman versus the Disco Inferno. Bog standard opening couple of minutes. They're trying to get over the thing that Disco is being weirdly serious during this.
Yes.
This is the thing they're trying to get over, and serious is code for fucking boring.
He does a nice pile driver. That's all I'll give him.
He does a nice pile driver. Disco does the Wolfpack poses and does the Hall point at some point. I just wrote, have some self-respect. The Heat segment was long and bad. They do the bit where he throws Kidman outside and then throws them into the rails. It goes for fucking ages. Just as Kidman's finally about to win, the Deadpool return again. In a really cool bit, Vampiro hits the Vampiro spike off the middle rope. That looked deadly. Disco tries to stop them. He gets laid out as well. So we get the tease of Disco joining up with Kidman and the boys.
Really
like
weird.
Some sort of group of filthy animals or something.
Yeah, no, it was really weird the way Disco put his hand out and then walked away on them.
Yeah. I don't think anybody, like, it was done in a way where it was like they'd teased it loads of times before, but the crowd were just like, what?
It's Disco. What the fuck would you?
Yeah. Especially because he'd worked so intently as a heel during this match and, like, was battering Kidman.
Yeah, it's not like
it makes no sense that he'd entertain the handshake.
It's not like,
or that they'd offer it.
Yeah, it's not like they started the match with a handshake between Kidman and Disco and there was, like, mutual respect there.
It's like they were doing the fucking Blackpool Combat Club with Ricky Starks thing the other week where it's like, you know, you fought really violently and we're really impressed. You bled with us, so now you can join us. It's fucking weird. More speculation about the main event. A weird stat from Tony saying that 2 of Hogan's 6 world title reigns in WCW came in Sturgis. We get a full replay of the career steps being put on the line for no reason. We then get Buff Bagwell versus No Music's Scott Norton. Apparently Buff is going to show the cat at Sturgis that he's Buff and also that he is the stuff. A man in the crowd roared the word stuff along with him, which made me laugh. I wrote, this is already a walking pace Scott Norton match.
Mm-hmm.
Buff did a thing I've almost never seen a wrestler do.
Fuck up a dragon screw?
Yes. He did a dragon screw the wrong way around.
Yes.
How do you not, like, I have not stepped between the ropes once in my life, and I instinctively know the way you roll on a dragon screw.
Yep.
How?
Because he's buff Bagwell,
How
baby.
does this happen? Yeah. Awkward bump. Norton hits a shoulder breaker that looked ghastly to take. Cat comes out, takes fucking 10 minutes to put on his shoes on the ramp.
What?
One would wonder why he didn't just come out wearing
Yeah,
them.
why was he not wearing them backstage?
Bagwell starts to fight back. The Cat, I don't know why I wrote this. Cat doesn't improve. I'm assuming he doesn't improve the match by his... he doesn't approve of it.
Oh,
That's what it was. So he comes down. Buff does a really... Oh, yeah. So Norton goes to do a running headbutt. And Buff dodges it by, like, grabbing his head in midair and trying to, like, pass him away. It was very strange. Like, he clearly was supposed to dodge out of the way and wasn't fast enough and panicked. Buff goes for a cover. Cat pulls the ref out. Ono skulls Buff with the briefcase, but he kicks out at 2. Cat and Sonny in the ring. Norton lays out Cat with a clothesline. Buff does a blockbuster, and ref calls the bell. He does it on Ono, doesn't he?
He does.
Yeah. Norton stalks Cat up the ramp, and Sonny is dead in the ring.
Shit.
Shite.
Yeah, it was really bad.
Nitro Girls number 3, and then we go straight into Canyon versus Booker T. Canyon accompanied by the Triad, Booker accompanied by Stevie in a fabulous get-up. We get the usual Triad promo, which I'm already kind of getting bored of.
It's unfortunate, but yeah.
He says Benoit better keep the belt warm. Then they go into Harlem Heat's Mama is so dumb. I did kind of get a little bit of a dad joke chuckle at she's so dumb she puts M&Ms in alphabetical order.
It's not funny.
Did you see somebody? It's from one of the WWE documentaries. Somebody clipped Mox telling dad jokes,
No?
and it was him hanging out like in the arena when people are kind of working on shit during the day, and it's him, Renee, Rollins, and Roman, and he goes, "Yeah, buddy of mine got a new job." And it's taking photographs of salmon dressed up in different outfits. It's like shooting fish in apparel. And I was in work when I
That's good.
was listening to this, and I was wheezing at my desk. And you can. The thing is,
You can hear it in his voice.
Good,
Yeah.
It's good when I deliver it, but it's not as good as the Mox voice delivering it. Anyway, Triad sent away from ringside. Booker firmly in control until Canyon stops a whip and hits a fisherman's neckbreaker, which looked cool. His advantage doesn't last long. Sidekick, spinebuster, couple of clotheslines, but ref gets pulled in the way of the second one. The Triad obviously went ahead of their cue because by the time the ref is bumped, the Triad are almost already in the ring. They throw the belt to Canyon while distracting Stevie. He hits Booker from behind with it. Booker eats a flatliner. Canyon wins.
It was shit.
Please.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
Yeah. Wasn't good. These guys are capable of much more. It was a match to serve an angle. I'm going to do the dirty on you twice with Mean Gene segments, and I'm going to get you to describe an even worse promo he does. It's Gene in the ring with Dennis Rodman.
Yeah. I will say Dennis Rodman seemed pretty sober,
Yes.
which was a good thing.
Much more lucid than he usually was,
Yeah.
and much more than he definitely was on AEW television.
Yes. Rodman implies that Savage has Gorgeous George locked away because she came after him, not because he went after her.
Mm-hmm.
Gene asks Rodman a question, to which Rodman replies by taking the microphone from Gene, and he calls Macho an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
And he says that Gorgeous George is going to know that she's his bitch.
Mm-hmm.
At which point Tony is like, Gene, you need to get that microphone back.
Yeah.
Because obviously we know that Gene can hear the announcers in his ear. Yeah, fucking wild for a Nitro interview. It's after that Macho comes out, and it's quite hard to tell if he's shoot mad or working mad.
I think that's the Randy Savage experience, isn't it?
Like, Dillinger is legit trying to hold him back and struggling. So I don't know. It's hard to tell with Macho.
Yeah, Dillinger is legit trying to hold him back and struggling, but also
Dillinger.
Dillinger is terrible at his job.
Yeah, look, we're well aware of that. That's been a thing since the 80s. But yeah, no, that was the most intriguing part of this, is whether Macho would shoot mad or not.
We get our main event of the evening, 6-man tag team match, Nash, Steiner, Vicious, Goldberg, Hogan, Sting. I love that they are trying so hard to make Hogan and Nash the focal point of this, because they're the main event of the pay-per-view, and no one gives a shit about them compared to Goldberg at the start of this. Now, I do couch that in, all these men come out, Hogan's last, an American Made starts playing. And as much as I will and do love to bash Hogan, people were into this.
Oh, they were. And I thought Tony and Bobby did a great job selling that it was, like, they were like, oh, wait, hang on, did you hear that music? And Heenan's like, yeah, that's the old Hogan music. And they really play it up. The crowd were incredibly hot for Hogan. Like, they just were. I mean, look, Hogan's a piece of shit, but
yeah,
they were into it. They were into the return to the red and yellow for the first time in 3 years.
Yeah. Now, I would like to ask you, this was asked of us by Webcon in the Discord. Is the red and yellow nostalgia run WCW's jumping the shark moment?
Ooh.
I've never thought of it as that.
No, because so much worse stuff happens.
That's my kind of thing, is like, maybe in some ways creatively it signals a turning point where they acknowledge they're completely out of new ideas and all that's left is nostalgia.
They're throwing shit at the wall to get ratings on a Monday night. That's a problem, but that's been a problem since mid-98.
Yeah, and like you said, there's so much stuff now from the next year and a half on that sticks much longer in the memory. I think the jumping the shark moment is Russo's hire. I think that's the moment, from the very start of that is the irreversible decline.
I think if you want to pinpoint one moment, it's the Goldberg heel turn.
Yeah, because I think people who maybe didn't watch it at the time, I think the habit might be for some people to say the Arquette title win.
No, it's not.
The horse had already bolted by then.
Mm-hmm.
It was long gone.
Can we, since we've talked about Goldberg, Sting comes out after it's the first babyface out, and they play the Sting Crow team because they don't have the rights to Seek and Destroy. Goldberg then comes out.
Yeah.
And Dave, you know where I'm going with this.
I do.
This fucking company left in.
And which company do you mean now? Be specific.
Fucking WWE and their shit fucking archivists went through the whole fucking run of Nitro and pulled out all the licensed music apparently.
Yeah.
Except when they didn't. So
what's brilliant is they've, so far by my tracking of the shows we've watched, I don't know the Nitros we didn't watch.
3 times.
But what they've pulled out, the main times they pulled this out was his debut with the music and the actual Megadeth performance. Yeah. And almost every time since, they've left it in.
It slipped through, yeah. Like, if they had just left it in for the return, I could live with it.
Yeah.
But
and it would almost make sense that that's the one they left.
Yeah.
Is the most important one.
So they're obviously paying Megadeth for this to be on the network.
Or no one knows. I would totally believe that at this point, especially with how bad the network is right now.
I just...
Like, Alan Forel was tweeting about during the week that he finally cancelled
I saw that,
because it's just so hard to find anything. And I've noticed now at the point, right, I don't know if you have, at this point in 1999, all the episode descriptions are completely wrong.
Oh, they're so bad.
Yeah.
Like, if we didn't know the dates and stuff, we'd be lost.
Yeah, Cage. The only way to use the WWE Network now is if you also have Cage Match open. If you're trying to actually find anything, yeah.
Anyway, this match was also pretty bad.
Yeah, I don't have much here.
I thought that the pop, like the fucking ovation, is the only way I can describe it for the tag to Goldberg. Like the crowd are like. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. They still had a chance here with Goldberg at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And Sting. They legit still had opportunities to turn things around with these two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's just, again, they're trying the Hogan thing so hard, and they're telling you they want Goldberg.
They're screaming that they want Goldberg.
Like, you did the return of the red and yellow, like you said, for the first time in 3 years, since Bash at the Beach 96. And even in spite of that and the huge reaction it gets in the moment, as soon as the bell rings, they want Goldberg more.
Like
and they cannot see the forest for the trees.
It's right there. They just cannot or will not get out of their own way.
They cannot understand that if Goldberg, if this company is hot and they turn it around, that yes, Hogan, you may not have the title for 5 minutes, but you will still make more money.
The company will still be there for you to bleed dry.
Yeah.
And
it's just, yeah.
I will say the worst ref bump you will ever see in your life is in this match.
Well, a couple of horrible bumps. There's a bit where Sid mistimes his jump up onto the turnbuckle, and because he mistimes it, he eats a shoot kick in the dick.
Yeah, well, less said about Sid coming off turnbuckles.
Yeah, true. Apparently, I saw a tweet this week. I've yet to confirm it, but I really hope it's the case by the time we get to it. They've edited the leg break off the network.
Not that it's off the network, they went to a different show.
Yeah, I'm very happy because I've seen that maybe twice in my life.
I have no need to ever watch it again, yeah.
And I will not. I'm going to tell people that right now when we get to it, even if it's there in full glory on the network. As soon as he goes to the top rope, I'm fast forwarding.
Yeah, I'm turning away.
It's not happening. I'm not like that with every wrestling injury. Like, I can handle some wrestling injuries. That one is morbid and makes me feel sick.
Mm-hmm. I mean, look, the Darius Martin one, or Dante Martin one that happened on pay-per-view.
Oh, God, yeah.
And Ray Phoenix's as well, where you literally see his arm snapped. Yeah. It's like, that shit isn't fun. It's just not.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Nash is unconscious because Hogan hit him with a chair. He gets put in the deadlock. He's unconscious, and the ref calls it for the babyface.
I will say, best Hogan chair shot you'll ever see.
Yes. I don't have much else to say about it. I didn't care for it. It was an incredibly hot match in terms of crowd reaction. So it served that purpose, and it got them where they needed to go in terms of now both careers will be on the line. But it was a bad match. Just a bad match.
I will say, after reviewing the show wasn't that good. I thought the crowd brought the show up so much.
Yeah, and I think the same is true of Raw as well. Raw was a better show.
Absolutely was.
But yeah, I think the crowd elevated both of these shows past what they actually were in terms of quality. You're very right. So do you want to do winners and losers for the whole night then?
Okay, winners and losers for the whole night. Winners, Chris Jericho, Triple H, Bill Goldberg. I'll give him Hulk Hogan. I thought those four had great nights.
Mm-hmm.
Losers. Let's see. Let me have a look. Who looked bad on these shows? I don't know. I'm looking through my notes. Nobody sticks out on the WWF side. Maybe Raven.
Big Show.
Big Show gets shit on by everybody. Yeah, that's probably a good one. Yeah, probably Big Show, and I mean, do you want to say David Flair for obviously getting like some kind of beating on national TV?
Yeah, he's not US champ anymore, so I feel like let's stick the boots in for a little while. Now, I don't want people who didn't watch the shows back in the day to misunderstand me. This isn't the end of David Flair, not by a long shot. Now, he will get much more tolerable at a point for a while next year because he gets into a trio with a much more capable wrestler and a much more over valet. So
actually, I have
him as the third wheel in a little faction is fine, I guess.
I have one more. Macho. I thought Macho had a really bad night.
Yeah. It was a horrible promo on the Thunder, and he somehow soared beneath that bar.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a guy who, like,
and you know how much I love Macho, but yeah, no, he hasn't been good the last 2 episodes.
Yeah, and we talk about how there was a long time where he was one of the only people still projecting himself like an absolute megastar.
Mm-hmm.
This is no longer the case now. He's missing more than he's hitting. And again, we've seen him wrestle a couple of times now since he's been back for the injury, and he's washed. He's gone. Yeah. He's gone. Right, that was an exhaustive Nights of Nitro. I am blown up. And I'll be relieved to retreat in the sweet release of a regular Thunder in 2 weeks. Thank you so much for sticking out, people. If you want to hear our dulcet tones before our next free episode next week, you need look no further than alargemanappears.com.
I was going to say patreon.com/WCW Thunderpod if you want.
Yes, where we've been doing some kick-ass shows lately, I feel like. Lee, what just went up last week on Patreon, and what have we got coming up next?
Last week was the conclusion of our deep dive into the world of WMAC Masters. We finished season 1. We were left on a cliffhanger. If you haven't listened, check out the show. I don't think anywhere else you will ever get a full review of a season of WMAC Masters, but we do it better than anybody else. And
the only person who maybe does it better than us in a different medium will be on our show, as Christopher Landis will join us next month. The author of Quest for the Dragon Star will be joining us for our post-season 1 wrap-up and interview special.
And then this coming week, we are doing our last TRL of the current bunch, I believe.
Yes, friend of the show, Nathan, has requested it's the most niche thing we've ever covered on the show. Whereas a movie that I don't think really travelled much further than the Australia, New Zealand region. The TV movie, I believe, Hercules Returns from 1993. I have no idea what to expect from this. It is the blindest I've been flying into something since maybe WMAC Masters. But also, we are going to get back next month. Once we've got solo audio coming as well this month. Yep. But next month is going to go back to some bread and butter now that the TRLs are finished. So we're going to go back to 2 of our favorite series to do. In October, we will be doing a rehash of The Champions, which Lee has not returned to that show in many, many months. Mm-hmm. So it will be good to get you back on there, buddy. And then we are also going to do a classic Days of Thunder at the movies. I have a couple of ideas for themes floating around. So you will need to be a member in the next couple of weeks to vote on what film is going to be selected for at the movies. So that's another little enticing thing for you. We really appreciate all our Patreons. It's been incredible the support we get on there.
And also don't forget, October is of course our Halloween. So we will have the 3rd installment.
Yes, Scream 3, our annual tradition of reviewing a Scream movie every Halloween until we run out of Scream movies. At this point, there's nearly enough Scream movies to last us the rest of the run of the podcast. I think when the next Scream movie comes out, I think there will now be enough to get us through the whole run of what we've got left. So yes, our Halloween will be dropping on Halloween night. But yeah, anyway, we'll see you behind the paywall in a week, back here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Thanks everyone for listening to another episode of Days of Thunder. Days of Thunder was produced by Lee Malone and edited by me, Dave Ryan. To keep up to date with the show and find all the ways to listen to us, you can follow us on Twitter at WCW Thunderpod or click the Linktree link in our Twitter bio or in the show notes. I am at the Day to Dave on Twitter and Lee is at Malone_713. Days of Thunder is a part of the Voices of Wrestling podcast network. Follow the VOW network anywhere good podcasts are sold for more fine podcasts than you can shake a stick at. Thanks.
Music. It's not just part of our daily lives, it's part of our wrestling fandom as well, and it has been for decades. That's where this show comes in. Music of the Mat, the podcast devoted exclusively to the music of pro wrestling, hosted by Andrew Rich. Hey, that's me. Each episode delivers a different topic with a variety of great guests, fun conversations, musical analysis, and of course, a heartfelt pun or two. New episodes drop every other Tuesday on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast app of choice. Check out Music of the Mat only on the Voices of Wrestling podcast network.
Do you like wrestling trivia? Then check out the 5-Star Match Game, the Pro Wrestling Quiz Show. I'm Joe Gagney, and every episode, I grill 3 contestants with 5 rounds of power-packed wrestling trivia. We have over 30 evergreen episodes in the archives covering WWE, AEW, Japan, Mexico, and much, 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 much more. Play along at home and check it out today.